map of just showing that place where that installation of that footbridge that was earmarked to be done late last year, it was already opened up to the public. Before we get into how traffic is doing, because it clearly looks like there's no heavy traffic build up around that specific place, but this is how that bridge is looking like. Mombasa Road is one of those busy roads, just like Thika Superhighway as well as Outer Ring Road, and that is why footbridges are necessary, simply because it also serves quite a number of residents. This is in regard to the number of numerous estates that just are along this route, which is Mombasa Road. There's one bridge at Nyayo Stadium area, and this is where Mombasa Road begins. There's one at Bellevue, there's one at General Motors, and this is another one which had just been slated to be installed. And this was in a bid to reduce on the number of death cases that are being recorded along Mombasa Road. In fact, annually, they used to record around 1,000 death cases, making it the #1 road in Nairobi City to record the highest death cases, and that was followed by Outer Ring Road. So that is why it was necessary for this, at least these bridges, to be installed. Now, the number one reason as to why footbridges are installed on our roads, whether major roads or even minor roads, one is first to reduce on the traffic congestion, because when you just look at this road, as you can see just from what I'm showing you in these images, this is just the number of vehicles that you can clearly see, and there are always quite a number of them. So you can imagine if both vehicles, public and private, as well as pedestrians, use the same road moving from one side to the other, then ultimately that leads to traffic congestion and heavy traffic flow, and that is why we normally experience some of this, more of this heavy traffic congestion on this major roads, and that is why footbridges are normally installed, one, to reduce on the traffic congestion, then two, to reduce on the number of death cases. Because again, of the same reason, you can imagine if pedestrians are using the same route to cross over from one side to the other side, then how detrimental would that be? And that is why bridges are necessary, at least for them to use the bridge crossing over from one side of the road to the other. But also one downside that comes with installation of footbridges, especially along Mombasa Road, is that they don't have that top cover. So just from what you're seeing even on this one, there's no that top cover, so making it difficult again for pedestrians, especially during rainy season or even in rainy times when it's actually raining. But even at that, at least the bridge is there, making it easy for pedestrians to move from one side of the road to the other, and also at least reducing the traffic flow. Now, coming to a map on that specific area, so this is now around Lolongo area, and just clearly from what we are seeing this morning, there's no that heavy traffic congestion, because as of now, a couple of minutes past 7 a.m., and oftentimes what you'd expect to see on this specific area is that heavy traffic congestion, because then again, it also comes all the way from Kitengela, Athi River, Mlolongo, as you head over to the city center, and it's the early morning hours. So again, a number of activities as you head over to the CBD, and even just as you head over to places around Mombasa Road, because again, Mombasa Road has those numerous businesses. When you look at the large-scale businesses, small-scale businesses, just along this route, there are quite a number of them. So again, that is also what normally leads to that heavy traffic flow, because in as much as yes, people are heading to the city center probably for their businesses or activities, also there are some that are heading just along the same road for whatever kind of activities. But clearly, as of now, that means just from what you're seeing on our map, if you're coming from Athi River, Kitengela, Mlolongo itself, which is our focus, as you head over to the city center, or even as you head over to any area around Mombasa Road, then this is the best time for you to do that, because there's barely any traffic congestion, and even in places where there's just traffic, is just slightly beginning to slightly build up, and this is next to the Mlolongo Way Bridge, and it's just on specific lanes. And interestingly, it's on the lane that is leaving the estates as you head over to the city center, which is again obvious, because this is what you'd expect to see in the early morning hours on lanes that are heading to the CBD or even just away from the estate. So basically also that is what we are seeing this early morning, but even at that, it's still convenient for those that are leaving these areas as you head over to the city center. But also, it's important for me to tell you that the reason as to why we are also not witnessing heavy traffic congestion on this specific area, again, is just of the same reasons. There's restriction of movement as you in and out of Nairobi, and again, this is one of those roads that also cater for people that come from the outskirts of Nairobi. But probably in the next link-up segment, we'll try to look for some alternative routes. But that's that in terms of traffic this morning. Up next, our segment in the headlines.
Now let's take a look at what has been making headlines this morning, both locally and internationally. We shall be taking a look at different newspapers to keep you updated with the information you need. We shall be having a copy of this Daily Nation, the Standard newspaper, the People Daily, and the Star. On the front page of the Standard newspaper, we have Ruto rejects Uhuru invite to address MPs. This is on Jubilee politics. Deputy President declines 2 invitations by the President and Tuju to speak at the Jubilee Party Parliamentary Group meeting that ousted his key ally, Aden Duale. No comment. That was what took center stage this morning. And picture there you have an image of the President and the Deputy. Call me. President Uhuru Kenyatta appears to tell his Deputy William Ruto after the Jubilee Parliamentary Group meeting at KICC in Nairobi yesterday. Aden Duale was replaced as majority leader by Amos Kimunya. You can see there the President giving him a signal. Call me. Let's open the page and get to see more about this story. Why Uhuru Acts had to land on Duale. Why Uhuru Acts had to land on Duale. Deputy President William Ruto declined to speak during a Jubilee MPs meeting chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday. The National Assembly Majority Leader, Aden Duale, an ally of the DP, was ousted during the 20-minute meeting at KICC. Ruto twice declined invitations by Uhuru and the Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju to address the National Assembly Jubilee Coalition Parliamentary Group meeting. Now, Deputy President, the invitations was snubbed the invitation by the Deputy President to the Deputy President by Uhuru Kenyatta and Tuju to address the PG were snubbed by his allies also. Sources close to the President says the purge on allies of Ruto will extend to Cabinet and the Jubilee Party headquarters in the coming days. But now you may wonder, this man, Amos Kimunya, who is he? Well, we have a story on the return of Amos Kimunya and why he carried the day. Seniority and experience in House leadership worked on the advantage of Kipipiri Member of Parliament Amos Kimunya, who was appointed the National Assembly Majority Leader yesterday. Sources said that having served as Deputy Leader of Government Business in Parliament and as a Minister in President Mwai Kibaki's government, including in the planned finance docket, Kimunya was considered as fitting the bill as Garissa Township Member of Parliament Aden Duale's replacement. Kimunya was also serving in the House Business Committee alongside Duale. Amos Kimunya quoted there are no rebels in the Jubilee Party. We do not have Jubilee A or B. I intend to cultivate one Jubilee driving one agenda. End of quote. Winners and losers in Jubilee's bloodbath. The return of Amos Kimunya and why he carried the day.
Right, and still keeping up with Jubilee politics and what happened to Aden Duale. The front page of the People's Daily this morning has a similar story, and the header just reading how Ruto's last man standing fell, where it continues to say that in a brief 22 minutes, Uhuru presides over the sacking of Aden Duale as National Assembly Majority Leader, dealing a major blow to his deputy's influence in Parliament. This story has been fleshed out inside the paper, so let's just get inside to see how that specific story has been written. This is in regards to the Jubilee politics and what also happened to the then Majority Leader, that is Aden Duale. And just coming to that specific story, let me get it for you. Right, the header just reading, Duale removed as Jubilee Majority Leader after surviving first purge. That is again in matters regarding to what happened yesterday, and also this is regards to the Jubilee politics, where the Deputy President William Ruto hosted sacked National Assembly Leader of Majority, that is Aden Duale, for a lunch meeting hours after the embattled Garissa Town MP was removed from his influential position, and that is the position of the National Assembly, position of the majority of the National Assembly, in what could be interpreted as a show of open defiance against the boss. President Kenyatta and Ruto praised Duale for his performance as the government's chief hatchet man in the assembly. There's also just image there of the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the new National Assembly Majority Leader, that is Amos Kimunya, as well as the image of the DP there. And also there's a bite again from the DP just saying that, my friend, when parliamentary history is written, you will have a chapter.
Now, still keeping up with the Jubilee politics, and as you've mentioned earlier, a day in politics is quite a long time. Now, things are changing, or rather, things are taking shape depending on your viewpoint. Now, Ruto quiet as Uhuru goes on the warpath. That's quite a header this morning on the Daily Nation. Take a walk. In apparent reference to Deputy President William Ruto's new command center, President Kenyatta says he's ready to cut loose leaders standing in the way of his agenda so they can focus on their activities. Now, also there on the insert is that Kimunya, the comeback kid, return of the Mac. Sometimes he's up, sometimes he's down. Yesterday, Kipipiri MP Amos Kimunya was a man of the moment following his elevation to majority leader at the National Assembly. For a man who rose to the powerful position of finance minister before falling with a third, the new job once again throws him in the eye of the political storm. Before we tackle that, we also have another header there on the Star this morning, talking about what is happening in Jubilee Party. The purge as it is. Uhuru clears a way for BBI. Cabinet purge. Ruto speechless as Kenyatta mows down his ally number one, that is Aden Duale. Also captured there on page 4 and 5. Just to have a sneak peek, if you remember Amos Kimunya, you remember the fond slogan, I'd rather die than resign? Well, that is it. And it all came up with, let me just give you a brief history, is that at the time when the former finance minister Amos Kimunya was under siege, or rather what we term as under siege, in Parliament over alleged improprieties in the sale of what is now the Laiko Regency, became a rallying point for fellow MPs. He declared, I would rather die than resign. Is it time for the return of the Mac? And what does this mean for those who are allied to Deputy President William Ruto? Edward Kabasa has sounds and pictures from that auspicious short meeting that came up with very defining moments of Jubilee politics.
On Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta chaired a brief meeting of the Jubilee Party Parliamentary Group at the KICC. The meeting was attended by Deputy President William Ruto, Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, and 174 Jubilee coalition members of the National Assembly. The meeting, which lasted less than 30 minutes, endorsed the removal of Aden Duale as the leader of the majority party in the National Assembly. Duale was replaced by Kipipiri MP Amos Kimunya, who until Monday had been serving as the Jubilee Coalition Secretary.
Going forward, we would want to see the whole Jubilee fraternity working together in harmony to achieve the objectives of the party.
Aldas MP Adan Kainan was appointed as the new secretary of the Jubilee Coalition in Parliament.
I think politics is so dynamic. This is one thing that really we also need to understand. Politics is so dynamic in the sense that every day comes with events. So as the Jubilee family, the Jubilee and the coalition party family, ours is to make sure the Jubilee agenda succeeds. And that is what exactly the president actually has told the members.
Duale's ouster comes days after a section of Jubilee lawmakers petitioned the party to remove him from the position as part of the ongoing purge on disloyal members of the party.
The party changed because the members felt there was need for a change. Let me tell you, we don't have rebels. The rebels exist in the eyes of people who want to profile people as pro or anti.
Former Finance Minister Amos Kimunya, now like a phoenix, sees his political star rising again after a 5-year stint absence from Parliament and the unceremonious departure from Cabinet following the then alleged Grand Regency sales scandal that saw him impeached after a motion tabled by the then Ikolomani MP Boni Khalwale sailed through.
Stop corruption at the Treasury, Kimunya must go. To end impunity in this country, Kimunya must go. To repossess the Hotel Grand Regency, Kimunya must go.
In the 12th Parliament, Kimunya has been serving as the Vice Chairperson of the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Education, Research and Technology. After the meeting on Monday, President Uhuru Kenyatta promised more changes, leaving it in suspense. The Jubilee Party lineup is now complete, with Kipipiri Member of Parliament Amos Kimunya taking over the reins of leadership in the National Assembly from Eden Duale. Kimunya will spearhead the agenda of the ruling coalition in the National Assembly in the last leg of President Uhuru Kenyatta's leadership. For Channel 1 News, I am Edward Kabasa.
Now, remember when Amos Kimunya was serving as the deputy leader of government business, it was during the time that the current Wiper Party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, was the vice president. Will he deliver? That is a question. Time will tell. Now, let's move from Amos Kimunya. Let's talk about now Eden Duale. Duale the man. We have a story here on Eden Duale, dancing too close to the sun. That is a question. Duale and the curse of loyalty. Well, in 2014, a year after assuming the position of National Assembly Majority Leader, the Garissa Township Member of Parliament, Eden Duale, declared his unwavering loyalty to President Uhuru Kenyatta in an attention-grabbing way. Eden Duale declared he would not hesitate to jump from the top of Kenyatta International Conference Center if ordered by his boss and Deputy President William Ruto. And he's quoted there, and I quote, "If Uhuru and Ruto tell me to jump from the top of KICC and assure me that I will not break my leg, I will jump. I am so much indebted to these men, and I can do anything for Ruto and Uhuru under the sun." End of quote. Now, although he had done everything using his powerful position to defend the Jubilee administration on the floor of the House for close to 8 years, it took a 20-minute long parliamentary group meeting to kick him out and have KPP Member of Parliament Amos Kimunya to take over. Now, you may wonder now, what has he done? Well, to his credit, he rallied the Jubilee Control House to pass the election laws, Amendment Bill of 2017. He pushed through the controversial security laws as well as Finance Bill 2018, where he staged a walkout from the chambers to deny the House the requisite 2/3. He also picked a controversial war with the then Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto by telling him off in front of DP Ruto that, and I quote, "Hii pesa sio ya mama yako bwana. Hii pesa si ya baba yako," meaning public funds don't belong to you, to your mother or father. End of quote. Now, the Garissa Member of Parliament stood out for steadfast defense of Uhuru and Ruto. It's difficult to see him outside the powerful office he commanded zealously.
An interesting statement that you just read from Eden Duale that time, where you're saying that if Uhuru and Ruto tell me to jump and you assure me that I will not injure, then I will do so. But now it looks like the dual loyalty between these two men has cost Eden Duale, where just dual loyalty cost Duale coveted seat, and the political fortunes of DP, that is William Ruto, continued. This is after National Assembly Majority Leader Eden Duale was removed from his coveted seat, that is the seat of the Majority Leader National Assembly. Duale, a trusted ally of the DP, was the last man standing, and this was after the removal of Ruto's surrogates in the Senate and in the National Assembly. There was an impression that had been created that being a long-lasting friend of the president, the man himself, Duale, would survive, but that was not the case, seeing that yesterday he was removed by the president during that PG meeting and was replaced by Amos Kimunya. But what does this MP stand to lose following his ouster from the top seat? Now, the vocal Garissa Township MP, that is Eden Duale, we also have the image of him pictured in there, will lose several privileges and lucrative perks following his ouster as National Assembly Majority Leader. And some of these perks that he is set to lose include he will get slashed allowances and renunciation of other privileges. Now, by the virtue of his office, Duale enjoyed hefty perks, including allowances, official cars, bodyguards, and plum office with the support staff at Parliament buildings. In addition, he also enjoyed security and luxury fuel guzzlers, fully serviced, maintained, and fueled by the government. But now he is expected to lose all of these things that he had been enjoyed, seeing that he has been removed from that specific office. There's also a bite from the man himself, that is Aden Duale, where it just says that today, which was now yesterday, marks the end of my 7 years of service to the great people of Kenya as the leader of majority.
Now still keeping up with Aden Duale, indeed. Pesa siya mama yako. We all remember that statement, and it was quite a household, and it has become a household terminology. Now it seems that the man fell to the axe, or rather he flew close to the sun like Icarus. If you read Greek mythology, you must know the story about Icarus and the brother flying close to the sun. Now, decapitated Duale. That's what the Star says. I came, I saw, I conquered. Those were the remarks of Aden Duale after 7 years of service to the National Assembly. And quoted there is that I am glad that from 2013 to 2020, I was able to process the agenda of the majority party effectively. In particular, I oversaw the passage of over 200 bills and 500 motions, to mention but a few. Now, after that well-publicized and documented meeting there, Aden Duale took to social media to just, recount his experience of his service, 7 years service at the National Assembly. Still talking on Duale and just looking at what now this means for the political scenario that we've been seeing changing over the last few days. Ruto fired allies. Allow me to just take you down the positions they held and who has been fired. Aden Duale, latest casualty. He held the position of majority leader. Benjamin Washali, majority chief whip. Cecily Mbarire, deputy majority chief whip. And within the committees, we had Moses Kuria of Gatundu South, who was the vice chair of transport committee. Kimani Ishungwa from Kikuyu, chair budget and appropriations committee. Gladys Bose-Sholei was in Gishu. Now from Gishu, she was the chair, delegated legislation. William Cheptumo of Baringa North was the chair of justice and legal affairs. Victor Munyaka of Machakos Town was the chair, sports and culture committee. John Waluke, vice chair of administration and national security. Haji Aden, chair agriculture. Fred Kapondi of Mount Elgon was the vice chair of the constitution implementation oversight. Robert Pokuse Endebes, the vice chair of energy. Alice Wahome of Kandara, vice chair justice and legal affairs. Mwashetani Lungalunga, that is vice chair of lands. Kate Warogoru Laikipia was the vice chair of the member service and facilities, while Conley Serem was the vice chair of trade and industry. Joyce Korir of Bomet was the vice chair labor and social welfare. And Lisa Chelule of Nakuru was the vice chair broadcasting. So far, those are DP allies that have been axed, or rather fired. That's a question that has also been pegged on our front page this morning. Uhuru clears for BBI cabinet purge. But since we've been talking about the latest casualty, who happens to be a longtime friend of President Uhuru Kenyatta and a perceived ally of Deputy President William Ruto, that is Aden Duale, how about we walk down memory lane and look at his achievements with our reporter, Kamche Mensa.
I came, I saw, I conquered were without doubt Duale's punching words on social media platforms hours after his ouster as Jubilee majority leader in the National Assembly Monday morning. The Garissa Township Member of Parliament, who boasts of being the first occupant of the seat of the leader of majority party under the new constitution, took to Twitter to share his thoughts on the sudden events of Monday morning. First, thanking his party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and Deputy President William Ruto for entrusting him the position. At the same time, Duale commended his successor, Kipipiri Member of Parliament Amos Kimunya, for clinching the prized seat. Deputy President William Ruto gave Duale a pat on the back, calling him a great leader. The DP in his tweet said, and I quote, "For the last 8 years, you discharged your responsibility as our party's first majority leader with style, precision, passion and loyalty. My friend, when parliamentary history is written, you will have a chapter. Mbele iko sawa na Mungu." End of quote. Amid the social media messages, Duale acknowledged that it was not an easy task, but one that requires working with everyone, be it a foe or friend. And in the end, he delivered. But in a move to express gratification in his service, Duale said, "You can, however, only live with a smile if during your years of service you executed your duties with zeal, diligence and dedication." He continues to say, "I live with a smile, being proud of what I was able to achieve."
Minister for National Treasury agreed with that level. And as a custodian, he said he is comfortable with 35%. And that's why we asked for a recommittal.
Duale also did not shy away from highlighting what he feels is an achievement during his service in the National Assembly, saying that he oversaw the passage of over 200 bills and 500 motions. The Garissa Township MP says, "I was able to ensure that all the bills for implementation of the Constitution, financial legislation to implement devolution and provide services to the people of Kenya, and bills to implement the Big Four agenda were enacted." Aden Duale clinched the Garissa Township MP seat in 2013. But others had no kind words for Duale, with Ainamoi MP William Chepkut casting him for bungling his election in 2017. In his tweet, Chepkut claims Duale with other Jubilee mandarins in 2017 during Jubilee primaries in Munyaka compromised his win and awarded the ticket to Chepkonga, claiming in the end that time is an equalizer. Kamchemenza for Channel 1 News.
Now, speaking of members of parliament who are likely to lose their seats, we have one member of parliament who is also likely to lose his seat due to corruption allegations. Sirisia, member of parliament, found guilty in 297 million shilling NCPB graft case. Sirisia, member of parliament, John Waluke, risks losing his seat after court yesterday found him guilty of fraud involving 297 million shillings in shady maize dealings with the National Cereals and Produce Board. Now, if the court on Thursday sentences Waluke to more than 6 months in jail, he will automatically lose his seat and will no longer be eligible to vie for any leadership position. Sirisia, member of parliament, found guilty in 297 million shillings NCPB graft case.
And still on the courts, there's still that same story where Waluke, others stare at prison in NCPB 297 million maize fraud, and that is we also have the image of that MP, that is Sirisia MP John Waluke there, and the MP was yesterday convicted by Nairobi courts over 297 million maize fraud and remanded until Thursday for sentencing. The trial magistrate, that is Elizabeth Osoro, did not just convict him, but there was also his co-accused, that is Grace Sarapei, and this is after the two were found guilty of fraud, forgery and uttering false documents. So the magistrate ordered the two to be remanded in Kileleshwa police station, which is where they are, and to await their hearing, to await the sentence to be delivered on Thursday. But also, through the lawyer Nelson Harvey, they argued that the prosecution had failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt the allegations that the two committed the offenses. This is what Nelson Harvey says, and there's a bite from him where he says that the prosecution evidence is insufficient to prove the ingredients of the offenses. But we wait till Thursday, where the magistrate Elizabeth will deliver the sentence of the two accused persons.
Now, still keeping up with stories that are making headlines, especially in the courtroom. That story made headlines with the Sirisia member of parliament John Waluke, where he was found guilty of fraud, and he's awaiting sentencing over 297 million shillings maize scandal. On the Daily Nation this morning, the header has paid millions for air. MP Waluke faces 10 years in jail. Now, Sirisia MP and associate Grace Wahungu found guilty of defrauding the cereals board of 314 million shillings. Now, just to have a sneak peek, just add on to what my colleagues have already shared, is that just the punishment, or rather the details of what this would mean, is that under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, individuals convicted for siphoning public funds must refund double the amount stolen and spend at least 10 years in prison. So if we do quick mathematics, that amounts to 628 million shillings that Waluke and his co-accused have to refund as part of punishment under the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and spend at least 10 years in jail. Now, save for a successful appeal, Sirisia MP John Waluke and his business associate Miss Grace Wahungu will give the taxpayer 628 million shillings, as we had mentioned, and for Sirisia constituents, a by-election could be on the cards. So we wait and see, await the ruling on Thursday. But as we wait, let's get the detailed report from our court-based reporter, Ben Troy Joy.
Sirisia MP John Waluke and businesswoman Grace Wakungu will know their fate this Thursday. This is after they were found guilty of fraud after a company they are associated with, Errant General Supplies, won a tender to supply 40,000 tons of maize to the National Cereals and Produce Board in 2004. According to prosecution, the due fraudulently acquired the money as cost of storage, purportedly incurred by Chelsea Freight, loss of profits and interest. Anti-corruption magistrate Elizabeth Juma ruled that on February 24, 2009, Waluke, being the director of Errant General Supplies, knowingly and fraudulently uttered an invoice for 114 million shillings to be used as evidence in the arbitration of a dispute between his company and the NCPB.
PW2 told this Honorable Court that Mrs. Grace Wakungu, that is the first accused, signed the contract on behalf of the third accused, and that the second accused did not sign the contract. That's Exhibit 2.
He was, however, acquitted of 2 counts of uttering a false document. Elsewhere, it was a sigh of relief for former Karachuonyo legislator James Rege after the court in Homa Bay on Monday recanted its decision of issuing a warrant for his arrest. Rege is accused of stealing public funds during his tenure as Member of Parliament. The court had issued the arrest warrant last Friday after Rege failed to appear in court to face draft charges. He is accused of defrauding the National Government Constituency Development Fund of over 900,000 shillings through a supply agreement for provision of telemedicine equipment to Kendu Adventist Hospital in Karachuonyo constituency. He is also accused of abuse of office. And police in Nakuru are on the spot over the careless manner they have been ferrying suspects to court, exposing members of the judiciary and public to COVID-19. On Monday, Naivasha Senior Principal Magistrate Joseph Karanja threw out 19 suspects and police officers for failing to adhere to government guidelines meant to stop the spread of the disease. The suspects from Nakuru were arraigned in court following chaos in Bondeni Estate over the weekend that left 1 dead, scores injured, and several houses torched. The suspects were ferried to Naivasha as a security measure as police sought more time to investigate the case. Finally, Kikuyu artist Muigai Wanjoroge has been summoned to appear before the National Cohesion and Integration Commission on Friday. This follows the release last week of his now controversial Kikuyu song, Enomegunda, which translates to These Lands. The NCIC has expressed concerns over the lyrics. Njoroge's lawyer clarified the artist has not been arrested and will honor the summon.
Kama law-abiding citizen, ameniruhusu kuambia watu wote ya kwamba yeye atatii hiyo barua na ataenda huko kwa commission offices hiyo Friday.
Now, teachers could be forced to undergo coronavirus tests ahead of reopening. This is according to the Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha. Now, he says this, and I quote, "We are considering whether all teachers who will resume work in September will undergo COVID-19 tests, end of quote. Now, this announcement came as questions emerged on whether learners will also be tested before class resume. State wants teachers to undergo COVID tests. The ministry to supply 24 million face masks by August to all learning centers and review transport plans to stem transmissions. Now, the teachers and learners to know their COVID-19 status. This is in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic here in the country.
Now, still on matters COVID-19, now volunteers enlisted to boost state efforts in pandemic war, where the government has now enlisted support and community-based groups and health volunteers, which are now the community health volunteers, or the CHVs, in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is as the number of cases inched closer to the 5,000 mark after 59 more people tested positive. That is in the last 24 hours. Remember, the government had also said that for those that would at least be getting better, they would be taken home, and this is where the community, or this is better still, where the community-based groups will come into place. And now the government has enlisted these support community groups to help them in the fight against COVID-19. We also have the numbers just as how we normally have them every day. As of now, standing at 4,797 cases, and this is after 59 more persons tested positive in the last 24 hours. So far, since the first case was announced in the country has tested over 142,000 people, where the number of recovery cases stands at 1,680 so far, and the number of deaths at 125. We also have the map of Kenya, just showing us the number of COVID cases. This is in different parts of the country, that is in different counties, showing us which counties have the highest number of confirmed cases as of now and which ones have the lowest number of cases. In as much as yes, we stand at over 4,000, that specific chart shows us the specific numbers of different counties.
Still keeping up with the COVID-19, update as it is, we have a very bold-headed day, and that has been captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. My wars with cartels at Afya House. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe opens up on his battles with cartels that run Afya House, as well as the uphill task of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic in an exclusive interview. Now, just borrowing out from that exclusive interview is that question: do you think that you'll succeed in this? Others have not been successful in fighting corruption in the ministry. Quoted there, I am determined. I knew what I was getting myself into, and slowly but surely I will manage. That is tough speak there from the health minister there. Mutahi Kagwe saying that he's ready to tackle cartels at Afya House that are in one way or another affecting service delivery within the health ministry. Now, so much has also been captured in as far as health is concerned. There's a story here that highlights why the ministry is to blame for overflooding of unverified COVID-19 testing kits in the market. This comes at a time when the frontline workers are threatening to down these tools, especially after, a significant number of them tested positive for COVID-19. And they say the reason is that what they're using is actually substandard, and they might as well just, on top of just claiming for their salaries, they want those particular PPEs to be made of good quality. Now, still keeping up on matters, COVID-19, just to highlight the domino effect, is that going forward, COVID-19 and its restrictions are going also to affect how we do our travel. COVID-19 to reshape international travel. This comes at a time when Asian destinations have already reopened. Now, Dubai, which is a popular tourist destination, says that now plans are to commence local and regional flights with Mombasa, Eldoret, Kisumu, Diani, Kigali, Entebbe before embarking on long-haul international flights to Amsterdam. So, are we going to be having those empty aisles in between two seats? That and so much more. But since we're talking about the quality of our equipment and also the safety of our frontline workers, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union is threatening to strike if members are not paid for their May and June salaries. This is in regard to various counties, and they have been named there in a report prepared by Irene Mchuma.
Health workers in most counties are now threatening to down tools to protest delayed salaries.
The counties of Trans Nzoia, Mombasa, Tharaka Nithi, Meru and Nandi are yet to pay doctors and healthcare workers salaries for the month of May.
Through the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, the medics are protesting delayed salaries dating back to May.
By the 5th of July 2020, if healthcare workers will not have received their salaries for the month of May and June, then we shall be forced to undertake industrial action in these specific counties that have become difficult to simply take care of people who are protecting Kenyans as we speak amidst this pandemic.
KMPDU says healthcare workers have put their best foot forward in combating COVID-19 amid a myriad of challenges, and counties should not be the stumbling block. The union says the only way to cure the health sector they claim to be in its ICU was for an independent commission to be created to look at the welfare of health workers. They claim the commission will help build the capacity of the health sector and have equitable distribution of personnel across the country.
We have information that there are people planning to remove Health Services Commission from the BBI report. And we want to sound a warning. And we have mobilized well with all healthcare workers in this country. Tumejipanga, tuko tayari. Ukiondoa hicho kipengee cha kutengeneza Health Services Commission, wahudumu wa afya watafunga mahospitali zote nchini Kenya.
Irene Mchuma, Odim, Channel 1.
Now, let's now take a look at what is happening in counties. And I would like to start with Vihiga County, where we have CDF gives 40 million shilling to schools. Schools in Sabatia have received 40.7 million shillings from the local constituency development fund to improve their infrastructure. MP Alfred Agoy released the fund to schools heads at Keveye Girls School yesterday. He said his constituency was preparing for reopening of schools later in the year after they were hurriedly closed in mid-March due to COVID-19. This is in Vihiga County. Now let's take a look at what's happening yet in another county, and I'd like to head over to this is yet another county that I'm having, Taita Taveta. Remember, Taita Taveta has had lots of issues in the past. MCS threatened to impeach 2 CECs over funds misuse. Members of Taita Taveta County Assembly have threatened to initiate an impeachment motion to remove 2 executives for allegedly violating the Constitution. Now, those targeted are John Mwangeka of Health Services and his lands and housing counterpart Mwandawiro Mganga, who are close allies of Governor Granton Samboja. Mwangeka is accused of overseeing procurement of substandard medical equipment that cost the country 250 million shillings. The money was said, the money they said was meant for renovating an X-ray block at Wesu sub-county hospitals and giving Voi Moi County Referral Hospital as well as the Taita sub-county hospitals maternity block a facelift. Part of the money was to be spent on purchasing drugs. But now, MCS threatened to impeach 2 CECs over funds misuse. Let's head over to Nakuru County. 19 suspects arrested over murder. A taxi driver is among 19 suspects arrested in connection with with violence that rocked an estate in Nakuru and led to the killing of a 22-year-old man. Moving on to Kisii County, 38 partying teenagers to undergo counseling. The 38 teenagers arrested on Saturday afternoon in Ogembo in an alleged sex and alcohol party will undergo a guidance and counseling as the government tracks down their parents. Kisii County Executive Member in charge of administration, that is Edna Kagwana, said that the national government and the county were working together to ensure the youths underwent counseling while in quarantine. That is in Kisii County.
Still on counties, looking at what stories that are making headlines in different counties here in the country, starting with Kisumu County, where the Kisumu County moves to court to defuse strike, and the Kisumu County government yesterday moved to court to challenge the health workers' strike that kicked off about 2 weeks ago. The suit was filed under a certificate of urgency before the Kisumu's Employment and Labor Relations Court. Well, in the matter, the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, Kenya National Union of Nurses, Kenya National Union of Medical Lab Officers, and Union of Civil Servants were listed as respondents respectively. The county government now argued that the disbursement of money to pay salaries for health workers was controlled by the national government, which was tied to the payment of pending bills by the devolved unit and affected all departments and was not intended to frustrate the health personnel. They also said, this is Kenneth Amondi, who represents the county government. He also argued that it had effected all promotions in good faith, and this is with all the 1,007 health workers that were promoted as per the relevant scheme of service. Remember that also the health workers in that specific county were complaining of lack of payment of salaries, lack of proper promotions, as well as pending bills. But this is now what Kenneth is saying, that in terms of promotion, they already effected that to the relevant persons only. When it comes to Homa Bay County, there's now relief for Rege as court lifts his warrant of arrest, and this Rege is the former Karachuonyo MP, that is James Rege, where he can now breathe a sigh of relief after the court lifted a warrant of arrest against him of a graft case. Now, on Friday, the same former Karachuonyo MP, that is in Homa Bay County, he was issued with a warrant arrest, and this is due to alleged misappropriation of about 909,000 Kenyan shillings, 909,398 Kenyan shillings in the National Government Constituency Development Fund. But now he can at least breathe a sigh of relief as this warrant was lifted. That was yesterday. Coming to now Nyamira County, criminals used technology to steal from butter company, where suspected criminal gang used tech to defraud Butter Kenya Shoe Company, and they defrauded that company 27 million Kenya shillings. So this was mentioned by a Nyamira court yesterday. The Nyamira court yesterday. Now, the fraudsters allegedly used fake gift vouchers, which they presented to various outlets of Limuru-based shoe manufacturer that is within Nairobi County to obtain shoes of an equivalent value. The that criminal gang of 4 persons were set to be arraigned before Nyamira Chief Magistrate Margaret Wambani, at least for their fate to be known.
Now, still keeping up with stories and making headlines in the counties is that reports of increased imports of illegal arms being probed. This is in Rift Valley, and focus is on Narok. The weapons have been used in robberies during inter-community clashes within Narok County. Now, so far, 12 firearms and 76 rounds of ammunition have been surrendered by members of the 2 clans, but authorities believe that there are still more guns in the wrong hands. Now, away from Rift Valley, we go into central counties, where bid to dethrone Gatondo MP Wanjiku on course, says Waibara. Former lawmaker says he's ready for a by-election as petition starts afresh. Now, Gatondo MP Anne Wanjiku is not off the hook yet, even after the High Court validated her election on August 14th last year. Now, her nemesis there, Clement Waibara, has yet to give up on his bid to remove her, as he's optimistic that he will succeed in dethroning her from the seat. If you're keenly following up on what is happening on ground, rather than in the devolved units, that is what is happening there in Gatondo. Now to the coastal region. Knock knock, did you trade cows for defilement justice? Informal settlement cases on the rise. Now, according to Chief Thomas Ngagi of the informal resolution of such cases at Msambweni, he says that they are on the rise, denying children justice, and reminds that Kenya forbids such compensation in cases of grievous crime, murder, rape, and defilement, but it is accepted in many communities. Now, he says he termed the traditional Somali-type Malash dispute resolution a major obstacle to justice and reducing gender-based violence in Kwale County. This just a few weeks, or rather a few weeks after the world marked the Day of the African Child, where the theme was to get, child-friendly justice system. From the coastal region, we go to the northern region of Kenya, where millions of immature locusts are clustering around Turkana or Marsabit County and may start the destruction flights by the end of this month. Now, that is according to the Food and Agricultural Organization FAO, saying that this is part of the second generation swarms of locusts that have been, in migration. Now, they'll remain for a short time, which there'll be a considerable threat to crops and pasture in Turkana and Marsabit. Kenya is still dealing with the issue of locusts. Now, crossing over to Nyanza County, is that the Kenya Wildlife Service has been asked to investigate cartels believed to be working in cahoots with officers to defraud victims of wildlife attacks of their compensation. This is in regard to mainly hippo attacks after the waters are flooded and Kenya and people and animals started encroaching into settlement areas. Now, Kisumu residents have petitioned the KWS Director General Brigadier Retired John Wawero to investigate claims of fraudulent compensation. Still in the Nyanza region is that a Migori couple has been arrested for stealing a 2-month-old baby in Homa Bay. Now, the couple was arrested in Ndiwa Sub-County Hospital in Homa Bay on Tuesday. Janet Achieng, 25, and her husband, who is 32 years old, were arrested after they were found with a child in their house in Rongo Town. Now, how about we have sounds and pictures of stories that are making headlines in the counties?
Natembeya, who spoke during a peace meeting in Likia area, which borders Narok and Nakuru counties, blamed the use of Logoman Forest for the clash between the two neighboring communities. Natembeya directed the county commissioners of Narok and Nakuru counties to create a committee comprising elders from both communities that will be tasked with resolving disputes between the two ethnic groups.
Hatutakubali watu wakae kwa hii msitu for now, na itakuwa ni toto. Utapatikana hapa. Hata ukiota kwamba uko ndani ya msitu, piga nduru kule kwa nyumba yako. Utapatikana hapa. Maana ni hatari sasa.
Mashamba ambaye Kenya mzima hakuna mahali iko kama hapa. Pande ya Narok tunakuza ngano, tunakuza bale, tunakuza mahindi, viazi, kila kitu. Hata hapa Njoro, Mount Narok, hata huku the same. Kwa hivyo sisi tunataka amani ili tuuze hii chakula yetu.
Ningetaka kuambia wanasiasa wale ambao wanaenda kuambia watu wengine atu wakuja wapigane Narok kama wapigana Nakuru wapate constituencies. Hii haitawezekana. Hiyo mambo ya kuja kuingilia jamii fulani, ama unakuja unajifanya unapeana chakula, alafu unakuja kuambia watu ati hatujapata hii na hii bila kumwaga damu. Damu ya mwanadamu iwe ya nani, hatutaki mwagwe Kenya.
An Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, says the Ministry of Education has engaged Rivertex textile industry in Eldoret to produce 22 million masks for learning institutions by August, ahead of the opening of schools in September. Speaking while touring Rivertex textile industry in Eldoret, Education CS Professor Magoha says the ministry is keen on ensuring school-going children are protected from the COVID-19 pandemic.
It really depends, because if a child requires to read lips, then we must consider masks that are transparent for both the teacher and the child.
Continued partnership and support.
Meanwhile, Safaricom Foundation has handed over personal protective equipment worth over 7 million shillings to healthcare workers in Meru, Kajiado and Baringo counties to support the fight against coronavirus in regions. The equipment includes N95 masks, surgical masks, and protective clothing, hand sanitizers and gloves. Elsewhere, residents of Merthi sub-county in Isiolo have been cautioned against relaxing the guidelines of preventing COVID-19 following the discharge of 30 suspected cases from quarantine. Merthi Deputy County Commissioner Andrew Molo said residents have stopped regular hand washing and are no longer wearing face masks in false belief that coronavirus cannot survive in the hot climate of the region. And Kenyan fishermen at Kibro Beach in Nyatike Sub-County, Migori County, are pleading with the national government to intervene and assist them to recover 4 boats impounded by Tanzanian authorities. Kibro Beach Management Unit Secretary Abisalom Aroko said the Tanzanian authorities are asking for 40,000 shillings for each boat, money they cannot afford. The remains of Brian Kimani, a boy who succumbed to leukemia and his body detained at Gertrude Hospital following a 12 million shillings bill, has been interred. The family has, however, appealed to the hospital to waive the bill, sentiments echoed by the clergy who attended the funeral, and challenged the government to put more resources in the fight against cancer. Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
All right, now let's briefly touch in the world of business. States' appetite for taxes up, Spain at the pump for consumers. Now, it would come as a surprise to many Kenyans that the landing price of a litre of super petrol for this month was 27 shillings and 48 cents, although they are paying triple the amount at the pump. This is because for every litre of petrol you buy, the government takes 50% as tax levied on the petroleum product, driving up the pump price to 89 shillings and 10 cents a litre. Of the amount sold at the pump, the taxman takes 43 shillings a litre, with the remainder shared among oil marketing companies, which take 12 shillings, and Kenya Pipeline, which takes 3 shillings. Now, it's not only petrol that whets the taxman's appetite for additional revenue. Kerosene, which is used by poor households in the country for lighting and cooking, has also been subjected to heavy taxation. Now, despite a marked reduction in the landing costs of imported fuels, as global prices fall, upward review of levies continue to deny Kenyans price relief. Fresh interpretation of applicable taxation laws expected to further raise prices. States' appetite for taxes up Spain at the pump for consumers.
In as far as business is concerned, there are stories that have been making headlines in the business circles. You remember you can get more details on our website at www.co.ke. So do keep it right here. We have so much in store for you. We take a short break. When we return, other matters continue.
The German company Wirecard says it is withdrawing its financial results for 2019 and the first quarter of 2020. In a statement, the firm said the management board of Wirecard is assessing the situation on the basis of further examination that there is a prevailing likelihood that the bank trust account balances in the amount of 1.9 billion euro do not exist. The missing money accounts for around a quarter of its total balance. The company said it was continuing to discuss a financial lifeline with banks, including a current arrangement that's due to expire at the end of this month. It said it was also considering several potential plans to save the company, including cost cuts, the restructuring of its operations, and selling or shutting part of the business. The scandal emerged after a series of articles in the Financial Times last year focusing on alleged accounting irregularities in Wirecard's Asian operations. Elsewhere, the Spanish government will decide this week on which countries to keep travel restrictions as it reopens to tourism after the coronavirus lockdown. The world's second most visited nation will discuss with European Union partners whether to allow travelers from outside the continent in or not. One of the worst hit nations, Spain has registered 246,272 cases and 28,300 deaths. Finally, oil prices slid Monday as a concern grew that a record rise in coronavirus infections worldwide could stall a recovery in fuel demand, outweighing tighter supplies from major producers. Brent crude LCOC fell 10 cents or 0.2% to $42.04 a barrel by 6 GMT, while US crude oil was at $39.72 a barrel, down 11 cents or 0.3%. Both contracts rose about 9% last week, and Brent crude futures have flipped into backwardation so that oil for immediate delivery cost more than that to be provided later, usually an indication of tightening supply. In Canada and the United States, the number of operating oil and natural gas rigs fell to record low last week, even as higher oil prices prompted some producers to start drilling again. Oil prices have also been supported by recovery in fuel demand globally following a collapse in April-May during virus shutdowns as nations worldwide resume economic activity. Still, the World Health Organization reported a record jump in global infections on Sunday, with the biggest increase seen in North and South America.
In the headlines with that overview from business stories that are making headlines across the globe. We take a short break, but we are not done. Do keep it right here.
Next on.
You fool! Do you know what that means? If Chanakya is able to meet Bindusar, then our plan will fail. Death sentences will be awarded to me as well as to all of you.
All of this can be answered only by Acharya. And that's only possible if you treat him.
Uko na HIV, si eti ni mwisho.
Wewe uko nayo?
Mimi nilishapima.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive.
Jeshi ya Nyeri Coast Maua na Kuru kwa locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the rev.
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxa pale go down. Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti
Nairobi. Fika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Auta Gilgil. Live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive.
Thika Massive.
Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Busia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the rev.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
Calling out to Africa.
For our next link on Matters Traffic, still keeping up with traffic around Mlolongo area, and this is how it's doing this early morning hour. At 2 minutes past the top of the hour, traffic moving at a pretty fast pace, still on the same area. Now, for the benefit of our viewers who may not have caught the fast link segment, this specific area, which is our focus this morning hour, around Mlolongo area, where this bridge has been opened to the public. This is the Mlolongo footbridge. Again, another footbridge to be installed in this area. First of all, to reduce on the number of death cases, then two, to reduce on the traffic flow around this area. Now, I had mentioned that one of the downsides that also comes with installation of footbridges, especially along Mombasa Road, is that they don't have that top cover, making it very difficult and hard for pedestrians, especially during the rainy season times. But in terms of traffic, it looks like this bridge is serving its purpose, because when we come to our map this morning hour, we are not seeing that heavy traffic gridlock like how we would experience in other times, given the fact that Mombasa Road is one of those busy highways, and the fact that it caters for quite a number of estates such as Mlolongo itself, which is our focus, Syokimau, Athi River, Kitengela, coming all the way to South B, South C, Imara Daima, Utawala. All these are some of the estates that just use this route as you head over to the city center or even going about your businesses. And not forgetting the fact that Mombasa Road, along that road, there's a number of businesses. Talk about the large-scale business, the small-scale businesses, the traders just along this specific route, quite a number of them. And this is one of the reasons that normally leads to heavy traffic gridlock, especially in the early morning hour. And not forgetting the fact that the same road serves people that come from the outskirts of Nairobi. But given the fact that there's restriction of movement in and out of Nairobi, that could also be the reason as to why we are not experiencing heavy traffic gridlock like how would expect to see or even experience in this early morning hour. Looking at our center of focus this morning being around the Mlolongo area, traffic just beginning to slightly build up around the Mlolongo Way Bridge, and this is on the lane that is leaving the estates. When I say the estates, these are obviously estates of Mlolongo itself, the Syokimau, not Syokimau, but Athi River and Kitengela as you come to the city center. On that lane that is leaving such estates, that is where traffic begins to slightly build up. But just around the Mlolongo Way Bridge, it's moving at a pretty slow pace. But on the inner lanes, it is quite manageable. Again, a clear reason and a clear indicator that that footbridge that was installed there and opened up to the public is clearly serving its purpose, because sometimes then it becomes difficult if both pedestrians and vehicles are using the same road. So when we have the footbridges, then at least it becomes easier and reduces the traffic flow, because pedestrians can use the footbridge to cross over from one side of the road to the other, leaving the road just for vehicles. But in instances where there's no bridge, then it forces pedestrians to use the same road being used by both vehicles, and this is both public and private vehicles, to move even from one side of the road to the other side. Now, with that bridge, now it looks like it's really serving its purpose, because in terms of heavy traffic gridlock, we are not, in terms of heavy traffic, there's none of that. And in areas or in places where there's traffic, it is at least quite manageable. But it's also important to note that Mombasa Road, just like roads such as Thika Super Highway, Outer Ring, and even Ngong Road, where we normally have traffic police up and early to try and see how best they can control traffic, this is one of those roads where also traffic police are normally stationed, especially just around these specific footbridges. And again, it's also important to note that there's quite a number of footbridges along Mombasa Road. There's one at Nyayo Stadium roundabout, which is where Mombasa Road actually begins. There's one at Bellevue, there's one at General Motors, and there's also this one which was already open to the public around Mlolongo area. And again, this was also in a bit reduced on those death cases, because Mombasa Road was the first road to record, or better still, the number one road to record the highest number of death cases, and they were recording at about over 1,000 death cases annually. So that is why it was really important, at least, to have these footbridges installed to reduce on that as well. But coming back to traffic, looks like nothing is really changing much in terms of traffic snarl up, because this is how it was looking like a couple of minutes ago when we began looking at traffic on this specific area. Traffic just slightly building up on the inner lanes of this area, which is Mlolongo, as you head over to the city center using Mombasa Road. On the outer lane of that specific area, that is traffic, again, actually I'm seeing a bit of a change, because earlier on when you're looking at this road and around Mlolongo Way Bridge, on that outer lane there was red all through as you leave Mlolongo, as you leave Kitengela, as well as Athi River coming to the city center. But now it looks like that color is a bit changing from red to orange, an indicator that in the early couple of minutes ago when you're looking at this road, the red just showing that traffic was moving at a pretty slow pace. But now it looks like that is changing a bit, because then the color change showing that now traffic is at least moving at a pretty fast pace. Again, also that just shows you that for people that are coming from Mlolongo itself, coming from Athi River as well as Kitengela, or even going to the city center, or even going to anywhere along Mombasa Road, this is the best time for you to do that, because in as much as there's a bit of traffic, it is at least manageable on specific areas. But also what I'm noting is that on the inner lanes, again, traffic has really begun building up, because earlier on, in as much as, yes, there was traffic, especially on these inner lanes, and it was beginning to build up. Right now, it looks that at least it's quite manageable. So again, just the same reason, it looks like this bridge that was installed around this area, it is really serving its purpose to at least ensure that that traffic flow along Mombasa Road is reduced, and clearly just showing us that it's really serving, that purpose. Now, away from that area, this is Mlolongo just coming through, still sticking with Mombasa Road. I had told you earlier that this is one of those busy highways, because of the reasons that I just mentioned to you. But away from Mlolongo, coming still through Mombasa Road, traffic again also building up as you branch off from Mombasa Road, heading over to Syokimau Katani Road. This is again a road that leads you to Syokimau estates there. So on that road, and this is on the lane that is leaving the Syokimau estates as you enjoy to Mombasa Road, going all the way to the city center. On that specific lane is where traffic is beginning to slightly build up. You may just clearly see just one tiny road there. That is the Syokimau Katani Road. But it is what you'd expect to see, because oftentimes I keep telling you, on roads that are leaving the estates as you head over to the city center, especially in the early morning hour, this is ideally what you'd expect to see. Traffic building up, and at times even at a standstill, because again of the obvious reasons. But on that lane that is coming from the from Mombasa Road, as you head over to the estates, there's nothing at all, and that is what you can spot with the green color. But again, it's also obvious, because as you're leaving Mombasa Road heading over to the estates in the early morning hour, you don't expect to see any traffic gridlock, because many people are leaving their homes, coming to the city center, even going about their businesses. So that is why we'd see traffic on lanes that are leaving the estates as you head over to the city center, which is the same case as you leave Syokimau Katani Road. But in as much as, yes, there's traffic there, but at least it's quite manageable. In fact, this morning I've not even seen any of the maroon color, an indicator that traffic is at a standstill, not moving at all. So it looks like a bit of a reprieve there for residents or people that are coming from Syokimau, or even coming from Lolongo, from Kitengela, from Athi River, going about any of your businesses in the city center, or even just going around Mombasa, or even branching off to industrial area, because again, this is one of those roads that branches off to one of those busy places that is industrial area. But clearly, in terms of traffic, at least quite manageable along Mombasa Road. Also on the inner lane that is around Syokimau area, I had begun spotting a bit of traffic. I had begun just seeing traffic beginning to slightly build up, but that again has changed. It is still the same concept, because I keep telling you also all the time that traffic changes all the time. In 1 minute, you'll see traffic moving at a pretty, in 1 minute, you'll see traffic just at a standstill. In the next minute, it's open up, moving pretty fast. In the next minute, moving pretty slowly. And that was the case. This is on the inner lanes of Mombasa Road, and this is around Syokimau area just after you've left Nolongo. There was traffic beginning to slightly build up on that specific area, but now it looks like it's opened up, and that is what you can clearly see from our colors, the green color that is on the inner lanes of Mombasa Road around Syokimau area. But the same case is still on the outer lanes. It's unlike what we were seeing around the Lolongo area, because when you're looking at that particular place, then traffic was just beginning to slightly build up on the outer lanes, and even in some parts that was around Lolongo Weighbridge, where traffic was moving at a pretty slow pace. When you come to around Syokimau area, there's none of that, just a bit of traffic build up as you branch off to Syokimau Katani Road. But again, like I keep telling you, traffic changes all the time, because this is on the outer lane of still Mombasa Road, but around Syokimau area, there was nothing like what you're seeing now. This is in terms of the difference in color. From what you're seeing on our map, a bit of orange color there. In fact, the first couple of minutes, or the earlier minutes that we look at this specific road, it was green all through, an indicator that there was no traffic at all, moving pretty fast, a reprieve for people coming from Syokimau. But now that has changed. The same concept again, traffic changes every single minute, because now traffic has begun to slightly build up. But even at that, in as much as it has begun to slightly build up, at least it is moving at a pretty fast pace. But remember that I had also told you that on roads such as this ones, especially around busy areas such as Lolongo, Syokimau, we normally have traffic police stationed up early to try and see how best they can control traffic. And when I say busy areas such as Syokimau, you can imagine the kind or the number of even malls, the number of large-scale businesses, the number of companies just around this area. So again, it makes it one of those busy areas. So that's that in terms of traffic. This is specifically around Mlolongo as well as Syokimau area as you come to the city center. But at least it doesn't look really bad. This is along Mombasa Road. We're really seeing traffic really flowing pretty well, moving at a pretty fast pace, just on some specific areas where there's a bit of traffic congestion. But even at that, in as much as there's a bit of traffic congestion, at least it's moving at a pretty fast pace, or I can say at least it is quite manageable there. So that's what is happening in terms of traffic as you leave Mlolongo, coming all the way to Syokimau, using Mombasa Road, going all the way to the city center. But again, just as you leave Gateway Mall, this is around still Syokimau area, I'm beginning to spot a bit of a traffic snarl up on the other lane. Remember, when we were looking at what was happening around Mlolongo as well as Syokimau Katani Road, there was traffic on the lanes that are leaving the estates as you come to the city center, and even on the inner lanes. But right now, just as you leave the Weighbridge, as you leave the Syokimau Katani area, a bit of a traffic snarl up on the other lane, which is unlike what you were spotting a bit earlier on. But even in as much as, yes, there's a bit of a traffic snarl up there, but at least it's also quite manageable. So again, there's no need for alternative routes for our viewers who might be watching and are coming from areas of Syokimau, areas of Mlolongo, areas of Kitengela and Athi River. There's no need for an alternative route this early morning because there's no that heavy traffic gridlock. So in as much as, yes, there's a bit of traffic there, but at least it's quite manageable. In fact, on the inner lanes of Mombasa Road, there's no traffic at all, moving at a pretty fast pace. So that's that in terms of traffic this morning. But now, actually, there's areas where traffic is at a standstill. I had told you earlier that when we are looking at Mlolongo and Syokimau, I could barely spot any area where traffic was at a standstill, and this is what that color shows us. If you can remember, when we were looking at those earlier areas, we are just seeing a bit of orange, a bit of red, a clear indicator that traffic is there, moving at a pretty slow pace, and in some other parts, moving pretty fast. But right now, especially as you leave Syokimau, just still sticking with Mombasa Road, this is next to General Motors footbridge there. That is where you can just see from our map the maroon color, showing you that traffic is at a standstill. In fact, not even moving at all. But again, this now means if you're coming from that Syokimau, using Mombasa Road, coming to the city center, then you may just have to make do with that traffic because there's one alternative route which I'll just show you in a bit. That is especially one as you branch off heading to Likoni Road. That is one of the alternative routes. There's one as you branch off to General Motors, again just coming all the way to Imara Daima, going all the way to the city center. But clearly, as of now, it looks like things are a bit changing. So again, this also means if you're coming to the CBD, if you're going about your business activities, this could be the best time for you to do that, because in as much as there's a bit of traffic, at least it's quite manageable. And just away from our map and looking at how traffic is doing, like on Mombasa Road, this is that part where I rope in my colleague Ram. Ram, remember that we had been talking about the footbridges that have been installed in different parts of, in different roads in Nairobi, and this is to reduce on the number of death cases. But just coming to this footbridge, which was our focus this morning around Mlolongo area, what do you think about these bridges that are installed without having that top cover? In as much as, yes, it's good for pedestrians and residents there, but what happens when during times of, rainy seasons?
Most Kenyans normally like staying or keeping shelter in these bridges. Look at all the bridges along Thika Road, for example, just as an example, or bridges along other routes. You'll realize that Kenyans normally start to take shelter during times of during the rainy seasons. But in my view, we should be having those top covers. The roof, yeah, it's good to have them. Sometimes Kenyans are very, let me say, clever in a way. some of them normally even put some small businesses, or they sell some small, things, clothes, shoes, name them, during some certain time of the day, and then they remove them later on, taking advantage of the commotion that normally takes place along these bridges. But I think it's necessary for us to be having those coverings. It helps, especially during the sunny season, during the rainy season. It can help. But in my view, it is important. It is necessary, but it's not that urgent. Sometimes they may want to just say, to cut the costs, let them just have the bridge. Because if anything, kazi ya bridge ni nini? Kuvuka.
Well, thank you so much, Ram, for your input there. But at least we understand that it's important. As much as, yes, the Kenyan Urban Roads Authorities are doing a good job to ensure that they install these bridges, especially on those busy roads, which is a good thing. But at least it's important for them to have, those roofs. But that's that this morning in terms of our traffic updates. We still have plenty more on the other side of this break.
Health Tuesday starts now. Now, in the past few days, we've been having discussions in regards to teenage pregnancies. There is an increase in number. This is according to the research that was released just around 7 days ago or a few days ago. Now, the Education Cabinet Secretary, Professor George Magoha, said this, and I quote, "I am shocked by the figures of teenage pregnancies reported. Even though the figures are less because the number of 4,000 pregnancies represents multiple visits of pregnant girls to hospitals, even a single teenager." Well, he said he is concerned in regards to the rising number of adolescent pregnancies, teenage pregnancies. Remember, this has been a cause of concern. Well, while teenage pregnancy remains to be a big challenge in the country and in the world beyond, notable milestones have been made over the years to be able to curb or reduce these numbers. This morning, we shall be talking about adolescent health. And to help me in this discussion, I'm joined by Lawrence Ojala, who is a population health expert, a health and education and promotion officer at the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. Joining me live. Karibu sana. How are you? Hope you are well. What do you think about the numbers in regards to the increase in teenage pregnancy, Lawrence? How best can we reduce these numbers?
Yes, thank you very much. I was also shocked with the number that was released 1 week ago. Yeah, the number was very huge, and this shows us that we must do something as a country so that we see how the number can be reduced. One thing that I propose or I think can be put in place, we can sensitize these young people. We can do something which we call behavior change. We should know where is the problem, because mostly if students or pupils are in holiday, we find the number keep on rising of pregnancies and other issues. So we realize there is some link somewhere, or there's somewhere. So every time that this arises, the researchers should sit down and look at where the problem is. So for my proposal, I know the CS in charge of education said that we should at least close the pornographic sites. He gives some of the need, but also parents have something to do. As much as teachers take more time with the students or pupils, also parents and the other organizations, the religious organizations, and also even we also have other NGOs that also have work to do, and even our facilities like institutions, health facilities, and the rest. They can do something so that the number can go down.
And you've highlighted quite a bit. But do you think as a society, is there a way that we can protect our teenagers? What is the line of weakness?
Yeah, as a society, I know there are so many things. We look at the health of the teenagers, especially the adolescent age. These are the people that they change. There are a lot of changes that take place in their life at that stage. We have the biological one, we have the psychological and even the emotions. There are a lot of changes that take place in their body. So one of the things that is very key as a society, we spend a lot of time with them, especially the families in the village. We see this behavior change. And these are some of the things that we have passed through. These are some of the things we have experienced. We can know how to sit on them. We can have friendly centers where they can be educated. We can also do some link. If you see maybe a child is passing through some of these challenges or some of things like teenage pregnancies, we can link them to counselors. We can do something because we have people, leaders in the community who are responsible for this. Even the parents can do a referral in case they can't do anything.
Do you think that if you look at the rate of exposure, what do you think that is the reason as to why you have this increase in exposure for our teenagers?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Exposure, I see the Ministry of Education is doing something. They are doing online classes, but that one we cannot take the whole day. That one they cannot spend the whole night, the whole day doing learning. So they are exposed. They have friends. They watch other things that in the social media and even the pornographic, as the CS in charge of education said. They watch these things, so they are exposed until something is done to at least, even in the environment. Some have even, apart from even the teenage pregnancy, some have even been introduced to other things. So the exposure is very, very key. And this is assessment that should be done. You should see where do they spend their most of the time. Can we be creative enough to bring some activities that can make their minds be busy?
Oh, okay, now what kind of activities do you think we can have that can engage our teenagers?
Yeah, I know we have different organizations, and this is something that is very key. One of the things I know at least in sub-county or in a county hospital or maybe in sub-county offices, we have friendly services centers. And when they go there, they can at least be encouraged. They can at least be encouraged on how they can involve themselves in some of the home activities. They can have games. I know we have COVID-19 and there are guidelines, protocols, put aside the distancing and the rest, but they can still involve in some activities. They can go to the farm. They can know the home activities that they can engage them in a variety of activities.
Mm-hmm. And do you have, just give me, for example, just a few things that maybe a parent can do, because right now we're in the time of COVID. Teenagers are at home. What can a parent who is watching you today do from the comfort of their home that can engage their teenager in any way possible, physically, mentally, psychologically? Is there any example that maybe you can be able to suggest to the parents who are watching today?
Yeah, the wellness of a child is all round. If you look at the health of a teenager, it's all round. It is mental, as we have said. It is spiritual. At the same time, it is physical. For a parent to make sure that you protect these people from these early pregnancies, at least they can engage. One of the things is a spiritual engagement. This is where a parent can sit down with a child, at least instill some of this behavior change, some of the teachings, or even include the religious leaders. But at least when they talk to them, of course, all the actions, if you look at the actions, their bit and the character, they start from the behavior, what someone thinks, and there he acts, and later we develop a character. So from there, a parent can at least involve some of the religious leaders, or even participate, or do it himself or herself. Another thing that we can do, at least I mentioned, we have social factors. As a family, at the time, I know nature walk is not that bad. Going out with these children, at least going out the nature, involving some activities. You can have even a small team where 2 people can play and we still maintain the distancing. The COVID-19 make us to be very creative. We have a new normal, but now we know how to live and engage our children. And even in biological, I know there are biological factors, and parents fear to speak about this with their children. And at this moment, this is a moment that you can see some of these changes. And this is a moment that even they develop something called anxiety disorders or panic disorders. They try to test many things. And a parent can detect this. You can know, if you are keen enough, you are observant, you take steps with your children, you can observe this. So this is something that a parent can know. And when you see this, you know how you can approach. You know which steps you can take to make sure that you help your child you help a child to overcome such of the changes in the body, even the biological one that takes place in the body.
Quite interesting indeed. But now let's look at the role of the society even as a whole. And I will connect society and parenting all together. But now, has the society failed in protecting our teenagers? Are we the reason why our teenagers are exposed to some of these vices?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think as a community makes difference, but they need to be empowered. One of the things that I'm happy about, especially in the budget that was read in June, we realized that 13.9 billion was put aside for community sensitization. We need to have these kind of programs in the society. We have community leaders. We can start from let me start from the county. We have the county, we go back even to chiefs and the village elders. These are the people who spend and knows these people. But today you realize in most of the communities, the role of child upbringing is left for maybe parents. But in the community, we used to have such services. They can be encouraged to be engaged. But today, community are taking their responsibilities, especially the community leaders are not taking that. They should even be reporting. They should even do linking. They should even collaborate with some of the institutions to see how to help these young people with the services. We even go out, we teach them. We know even who can be taken to this place, who is maybe marginalized or maybe vulnerable to this. From there, we can know linking and how to help these young people. Some even get these pregnancies because of financial or maybe poverty. Our community is in a position to tell us how can this family, if she is orphan, or maybe there's a challenge with that child, how can we chip in as a community to help her so that such cases don't arise?
Oh, okay. And let's talk about the role of the internet. How best can we protect our children even from vices that they can acquire from online influences, from the internet?
Yeah, I know this is a big challenge, and most of right now, most of parents give their children phones. We have the laptops so that they can attend the online classes. And I know this is the basic. I know this is good for information. The children get lessons, but they go extra mile. They want to go to other sites that maybe take their mind far from what they should be doing, for what they should be focusing. So as a parent, I think there's a time that also we should have a limitation. There's a time we should not go beyond what we should be offering. At times we find even at night, they spend more time with these phones, they spend more time with this laptop. So in the internet, as they still say, we should have at least a control measure. We should have a way that we limit them going deep to those things. We can teach them, we can monitor them, we can also, some of the sites can even be blocked.
As we bring this discussion to a close, what do you think is the role of the government in protecting our teenagers?
Yeah, the role of the government in protecting the teenagers, there are a lot. If you start from even we have the NGOs, CBOs, and also we have FBOs. If you look at all this, like I know we have NCPD, even the government agencies, we have parastatals like National Council for Population, and also we have other agencies. They work, the government should at least make sure they carry out some programs. I talked of sensitization some minutes ago. And also the government also should at least set aside some funds, allocation for people who are vulnerable. I talk of the people who are living in the slums. I talk of people who are also maybe poor. I talk of maybe people who maybe because of one reason or the other, they cannot get their daily needs. Government at least should allocate some funds, at least should support such young people so that they know. Government should even go to an extent of involving youth. I know if you talk of adolescents or teenage pregnancies, it goes to even early 20s. The government should come up with a way of even creating employment either self, because others at the age of 19, someone have finished college or maybe a school, so we should at least involve them in some program. Though I know government have some in place, but it should be increased. Even the parliament in allocation of budget and policies that are very important for this young people.
Lawrence Ojala, for your feedback in regards to this discussion. He is a population health expert. Asante sana, thank you very much for your time, Lawrence.
Thank you very much for giving me this time to speak about this.
All right, that is Lawrence Ojala, who is a population health expert, giving us his take in regards to this. The rise in teenage pregnancies has been a cause of concern for so many Kenyans. Some parents blaming each other, while some blaming the teenagers. Other people in the society blame the society. Well, what is the reason as to why we are having this increase in numbers? For so many years, we've been having this discussion, but now with the increase in numbers of late, what is the way forward? Well, give us your take. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya, at Aguko, at Doreen Narange, at KBC Channel 1, at Ray Manyara, and at Jane Wambui. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. We're taking a short break, but we'll be back in a bit.
Well, before we take that break, time for our next conversation of the day. Our focus will be centered on climate change and the emerging health challenges presented in that sector. Our special focus will be on viruses and specifically COVID-19. That will be our center of discussion this morning. Joining me live will be Dr. Lois Odingo. This is a senior lecturer at University of Nairobi and the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies. Dr. good morning. How are you? Well, before we get the doctor, that will be Dr. Alice Odingo, who will be joining me live via Zoom to help us understand more about climate change and the emerging health challenges presented in that sector, seeing that a lot has been happening in regards to matters health and how climate change has been affecting us as individuals. We shall also be looking at some of the respiratory diseases that are as a result of climate change. And also when you look at the issue of floods, which has really has become so much in the past couple of weeks when you look at different parts of the country, here in Nairobi specifically, as well as other areas. We've been having we've been having a lot of rainfall, which has also resulted to flooding in some of these areas. So also what we'll be getting to understand from the doctors there is whether or not climate change is what has resulted to this flooding issues, which is what we are facing as of now. In what ways might have climate change resulted to floods? That is one thing we shall be getting to understand in that capacity, as well as also matters to do with health challenges. Right now we are battling COVID-19. In what capacity has climate change resulted to such kind of viruses? When you look at some of these viruses that we've been battling even in the past years, viruses such as Ebola, which really took shape in West Africa. Right now we are battling COVID-19. Does in any way climate change has in any way climate change been as a result, or better still, has climate change resulted to us experiencing or having these viruses which we are having? These are just some of the things that we'll be getting to understand from the doctor there when we get her, as well as this issue of people right now clearing forest and using such areas and opening up such spaces for settlements, and also opening up such spaces for agricultural purposes. We have seen in different parts of the globe, in the African continent, and even here in Kenya, people clearing up forests, clearing up bushes, and using such specific areas for settlement areas, using such areas for agricultural purposes. So how, even when you talk about people doing that, could it mean that some viruses are released from such areas when people are clearing up such spaces? Again, these are the questions that we shall be asking the doctor there to just get to find out more about the issue of climate change, because oftentimes when you talk about climate change, we are alluding to sometimes the issues of air pollution. We talk about water pollution. So in which capacities might this kinds of pollution, which sometimes lead to difference in climate change, could it have affected us as individuals, us as societies, and even resulted to some of these viruses which we are experiencing as of now? So there are so many things that we'll be getting to discuss with Dr. Alice Odingo, who is a senior lecturer there at University of Nairobi on the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies. These are some of the things we'll be getting to understand more from her. But more that also we are live on our different platforms. You're live on YouTube, live on Facebook as well at KBC KBC Channel 1 TV. The hashtag to use is always Good Morning Kenya. That is on Twitter. So you can also send in your questions, whatever you might want to find out from the doctor there, even as she will be helping us understand more about this climate change and the issues that are presented there. Or remember that also there has been so many questions in regards to when it comes to COVID-19, because again, we shall have a special focus on these diseases, and among them also COVID-19. We'll be getting to understand more about that specific issues, because remember, people had been saying that in areas or in countries where there's high heat, then there's no possibility of people contracting COVID-19 in those areas, or even if there might be COVID-19 cases, then they are really quite minimal. But could that really be the case? This is also one thing we'll be getting to find out from the doctor there, because again, remember that people are also having that confusion and misinformation that anytime when we start experiencing cold or even rains, then there's a possibility of influx of COVID-19 cases. And in areas where there's a lot of heat, then COVID-19 cannot thrive there. So what is that relation between, such different weather patterns and different climatic changes when it comes to our health as individuals, when it comes to our health as persons, and how can we merge and interrelate that? And probably also what can we do as a society to ensure that we do away with the issues of polluting our environment, so that we have better weather patterns and we have at least good climate. These are also some of the questions that we'll be raising to Dr. Alice there, and at least will be helping us understand more about that. So shoot in your questions, whatever you might want to find out from Daktari there. As and when we get her, we'll be having this specific conversation to find out more about climate change, the kind of health challenges that have emerged from that. Again, also remember, there's been the issue of whether or not we might face zoonotic fever, seeing that there's no clear explanation, there's no clear evidence in regards to show us or to even make us understand more about COVID-19, whether or not it is related to climate change, in as much as we'll be finding more about that from her. So again, there's that fear of us as a society in regards to whether or not we might be faced with zoonotic fever, which is a fever that stems from animals and birds, and it affects human beings. Again, this is also one thing that Daktari will be helping us learn more about, and also get to find more about that. Is there a possibility for us as a society, as individuals, to experience that kind of fever, seeing that there's no clear explanation, no clear evidence of even climate and COVID-19? So again, these are just some of the issues that Dr. Alice will be explaining to us in a bit. So we're just trying to get her. When we get her, we'll be understanding more about these specific issues. But again, I still continue to insist that shoot in your questions, whatever you might have or whatever you might want to understand, and even ask the doctor there in regards to climate change and how it's related to matters health. And even when we talk about such things such as flu, which we are constantly having flus, especially during cold seasons. Again, still on matters climate, because during cold season there's tendencies for people to experience flus. This could be cold flus, could be sneezes. So could that be as a result of, again, difference in climate change? Could that be as a result of high heat? That is also what we'll be finding out from the doctor there. But for now, we take a very short break. We'll be back with more.
On the next episode of Elena's Ghost.
I'm a man that's in need of your love, that needs your affection, Andrea.
It'd be terrible if she escaped again, Doctor. She's proven to be a very dangerous woman.
Dangerous and intelligent.
Nothing that has to do with this Calcanio is exaggerated.
Our son finally turns 1 today. And Pancho and I have prepared something truly special for this event.
Hello, Elena.
Karina!
Coronavirus COVID-19 is a respiratory virus spreading across the world. The infection is spread from droplets of coughing and sneezing of an infected person, touching or shaking hands, or being in contact with contaminated surfaces or objects with the virus. The signs and symptoms are fever, coughing, headache, body ache, difficulty in breathing. The disease can be prevented by regularly washing hands with soap and running water. Avoid close contact with people who have flu-like symptoms. Avoid handshake, hugs, and kissing. Also, protect yourself by covering your mouth or nose using a disposable tissue while coughing or sneezing. If you experience these symptoms and you had traveled or been in contact with a person from a country reporting COVID-19, you should isolate yourself for 14 days. Dial *719# or call 719. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners.
Now I'm confident about this, that they have locked up Acharya Chanakya here.
You and your friends are done fooling me. Not anymore. I will take you to Her Highness immediately.
Greetings, Emperor.
I see a grave danger approaching us. Along with Acharya Chanakya, there is a conspiracy to murder the entire royal family.
I have found Acharya.
This Tuesday on KBC Channel 1.
Sign on the dotted line, please.
Tuongee na familia. Hapana. Sisi wote tutataka kusaidia. Tunampenda sana huyo msichana.
I can take anything you throw at me, Wanjala. Hit me!
Stop it, Julia.
This patient's incredible at survival instincts.
You were right, Elena. There are worse fates for a person in life than dying.
Welcome back. We continue with the show. But before I get to engage Daktari to help us understand more about climate change and the emerging health challenges presented there, let me just engage my colleague, that is Ram Aguko, on the other side of studio. Ram, when you talk about climate change and the emerging health challenges, sometimes you talk about the flus, the common cold, and even COVID-19. In your perspective, do you feel like there's a relation between these two?
Well, looking at how the world has changed, the COVID-19 pandemic led to isolation of different, we talk about self-isolation, we're talking about lockdown, I'm talking about how different countries made sure that their citizens stayed indoors. Now, if you look at the population of the whole world, we're talking about over 7 billion people, and it's increasing number. When people are outside, we have lots of work taking place, industries opened, we're talking about lots of motor vehicle usage, we're talking about lots of fumes being emitted into the air. Climatic change has been experienced during this COVID-19 period. Let's talk about air pollution, for example. If you look, Doreen, about the rate of air pollution in the whole world, globally, it reduced during this whole period because people were no longer going to work, people are no longer using their vehicles, people are no longer going to factories. Everything was on lockdown, so people went back home. So you would expect a reduction in the number of health cases during this pandemic. But now, is this the case? If you look at different, the first world countries, the second world countries, the industrialization was taking place at a very fast pace. It has reduced. How does it mean that we are going back to ground zero? But now this is what we would like to find out, even as talk about how climate change has affected our health.
Well, good point as you've raised there, Ram. And right now you're joined live by our guest, that is Dr. Alice Odingo. Dr. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning, you're fine, thank you.
All right, let's just start, before we get to understand how this climate change might have affected and resulted to different health challenges, for the benefit of our viewers, tell us, what is climate change and what causes it?
Yes, climate change actually is now a global phenomenon, which I think every corner of the world, even children, know something about. It's just the long-term changes in weather patterns, average over a long time, like 30 years. And then looking at that scenario, there's evidence that climate has changed over the years by increasing temperatures up to about 2 degrees Celsius. In some places like Africa, it could even be more than that. So that is basically what climate change is. And the climate change impacts our lives, our livelihoods. For example, food production, because of failure of rains when we need them, they have lowered our productivity in agriculture, leading to reduce food production. There are impacts in health that we are going to talk about today that leads to make us more susceptible to various ailments. Climate change also, because of pollutants in the air, has compromised our health in a different way, and also through intense heat and cold conditions. We are now seeing, for example, the situation of COVID in Europe, where we say that because of the cold condition, the virus was more virulent in those areas. So climate change has got different impacts on our ecosystem and livelihoods, and one of them actually is diseases that we're going to discuss today.
You mean? Dr.
Yes, please.
I'm saying, when you talk about the difference in climate change, at least being different in places such as the African continent, what do you mean by that?
Yes, climate change will impact different areas differently. Like in the West, in lower, so in higher altitudes, they are going to experience increases in temperature, and that is good for them, for example, for their food production and others. But for us, Africa, climate change will impact on us negatively, because already we have very high temperatures, and increases in those high temperatures can only worsen the situation that we are now experiencing. Like, we are likely to find losses in agriculture, in food production. That means sort of malnutrition. We're also going to experience flooding in some areas. That means increase in waterborne diseases and vector-borne diseases for Africa. And also, because of the air pollutants in the environment, we are going to compromise on our health situations. So for our case, climate change is going to adversely affect us in Africa.
Okay, saying that it's already here with us, we are experiencing it. We are experiencing it. Do you think we will survive climate change? Are we doomed?
That's a very interesting question, because we have to survive. There's no alternative for not surviving. And I can say that in African countries have tried through global arena of IPs to be part of the research, and also to implement certain conditions for climate change adaptation. If I may talk about, for example, our own country, Kenya, we have a policy on climate change. We also have an action plan on climate change. All these are aimed at trying to adapt to climate change and mitigate some of the effects, because we have to survive. And then also beyond that, in the country, we have our Big Four agenda also, where we bring on health, food security, manufacturing, and also affordable housing. And what I want to say is that for us to be sure that we can be able to deal with climate change and health, we have to look at the 4 types of health, because climate change impacts on the 4 types of health. For example, the physical health, where you feel sick in your body, the social health, where the environment plays a role in the kind of disease we experience, and climate change is one of those factors that impact on the environment, and this is where we take care of other people's interests. Then we have mental health also, where climate change will impact on mental health because of other conditions. And then lastly, we have moral health, which is a bigger problem for us because we have not addressed it, and it's a much serious issue for us. If we don't have that, then even efforts towards climate change adaptation may not work for us.
Okay. Earlier on, you had mentioned that there's an action plan to mitigate climate change. Make us understand, which action plan is this?
We have the National Climate Change Framework Policy and Action Plan 2018 that the government actually was able to connect different ministries to mainstream climate change adaptation in different sectors of the economy, so that everybody is brought on board. And it has been a journey. When the Act started, they went into policy. It was a long journey, but at least Kenya has reached to that level.
All right. Now, what about the health challenges that are presented as a result of climate change, such as flu and even cold? Could that be as a result of climate change?
Yeah, we have always had flu. We have always had some of these respiratory ailments with us. But I think the complication came when we had the COVID-19, where people were wondering whether this is normal flu or it is not a flu, because some people are saying, oh, this is a common flu, other things not. But the issue here is that as climatic changes continue, our environment changes around us, and maybe our immune system is weakened. Because of that, we are more susceptible to viral infections. Like they say in the case of COVID-19, most people who are dying are those who have preconditions, like they have respiratory problems and other underlying causes, then they do not survive the ailment. And that means if we have compromised health situation, then we will be more susceptible to most of viruses and their effects, even without climate change.
Okay, Dr. Even as you talk about those respiratory illnesses, at least help us understand, when you talk about these emerging viruses, such as COVID-19, which is what you're battling now, when you look at some couple of years back in West Africa, we had the Ebola virus. Could this be a manifestation of difference in climate change?
It could be yes, and it could be no. If I may draw your attention to, for example, before that we had things like HIV/AIDS virus, which we said, or research tells us, came from chimpanzees. Then you mentioned Ebola. Ebola was there also, and then there's also SARS, which also came up, which was from birds. Then now we have the COVID, they say from birds, although not proven. Those are the theories that are going around these diseases. But the issue is, as climatic changes, human beings are moving into virgin environments where they are felling down trees and getting in contact with some animals which may be carriers of these viruses. So as they mingle around with these animals in the forest, which they don't know about, they can pick up some of the viruses, and that can be a problem.
All right. Now, there's also that question of weather and climate, whether it determines on which places COVID-19 can occur. What is your take on that?
Weather and climate?
Yes.
Yes. There's a theory again that the virus thrives in a cooler environment.
Exactly.
And that in Africa it is warmer, and therefore we should not worry more about the virus. But I want to say that still little is known about COVID-19. We do not know much about this particular virus because we were so afraid of it, and we brought in so many conditions on board. We are trying to resist it. one of them was isolation, which has brought in several other problems for us, like with the children, with the families. So to me, I see it is still not mature enough to pinpoint really the link between COVID-19 and weather, because even here it is warm, but still we are having some lives lost. We need to prove that.
Okay, just speaking from what you're saying, Dr. Alice, does that then dispel that idea of places where there's high heat, then there's no likelihood of people being susceptible to COVID-19?
I may not say yes and no to that, but because, like I say, people are still dying even in Africa. But again, there are also people saying that because the virus is slowly degenerating, it may soon disappear on its own. I think we need more research in that area just to understand. One thing is clear is that because of the air pollution, due to emission of gases in the atmosphere, that alone compromises on people's health, and therefore when they contract COVID-19, they get more impacted, and that actually compromises their health. They can even die from it. But if somebody is healthy enough, like they say, you are able to resist the disease.
Okay, now even as you talk about air pollution, Dr. Alice, there's that question of now there's been reduced human activities, seeing that most people are now at home or even working at home due to COVID-19. And could that at least have impacted climate change positively in us not having so much air pollution and even water pollution as it were?
Yes, I find that very interesting. Yes, because climate change, like I began by saying, is a long-term average of weather. And it takes something at least 30 years for us to say there's a change.
Okay.
Otherwise, the other things are just daily effects of weather. And the COVID-19 is just about 3 months or so old, or maybe 5 months old. And that impact is not enough to call it, to link it with climate change. But we can still use maybe the weather variation. But the little impact that has been created by isolation, for example, staying indoors, like less vehicles on the road, less pollutants on our waters, that is there, but it cannot still create any impact in climate change mitigation. It is too minimal still.
All right, now slightly away from matters COVID-19, let's come to the issue of flooding, seeing that in the recent couple of weeks, at least in different parts of the country, we've been experiencing heavy rainfall, in some other parts even flooding. Could that be as a result of difference in climate change?
Yes, flooding is part of the impacts of climate change that we're likely to experience in this part of Africa. And it is normally normal that within April, May scenario, we normally have high rainfalls in some parts of the country, for example in Kenya. And this time the rainfall was enhanced, and that's what led to flooding. So that is one of the impacts of climate change. And we could see what devastation it caused to the people that were involved. Like people lost their houses, people lost their property, people were, they even forgot there was isolation. Now they were converged in one places, and this has got impacts even on families. I have been seeing, for example, in the media about the teenage pregnancies that you are worried about, and this could be even other aspects of health that are indirectly linked to climate change, which are not being addressed. But we are more worried about teenage pregnancy and not the number of people that could have gotten HIV/AIDS, even during those problems for isolation and flooding.
Right. When you said yes, that it could be as a result of climate change, the issue that we are experiencing, that is the issue of flooding, then what can we do as a society to curb that?
Yes, when we talk about climate change, there are normally guidelines put for us how to adapt. Like we have to take care of our resources, the forest. We have to minimize waste in the environment. We have to use clean energy. that is away from fossil fuels and maybe use renewable energy sources like solar, geothermal, and others. So there are many areas of addressing climate change, which I think we are trying to do. That's another topic on its own. And each country, for example, Kenya is a signatory to the Paris Agreement, where they made commitments under what we call independent national determined contributions, and each country decides how they want to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And then at the end of it, they're able to evaluate how better they are doing it, because it's a joint effort. You cannot do it alone. It's a global problem and must be also addressed globally and locally.
Wow, I like what you say that it's a right. I like what you're saying that it's a joint effort. Now, in your perspective, do you feel like there's probably something more than the government can do, at least to reduce such kind of issues? And if is there, what do you think they can do?
For the government of Kenya?
Yeah.
To deal with climate change?
Yeah, because you're saying like it's a joint effort. So what can they do?
Okay, for the simple things we can start, we can address the use of energy, which which is within our means, and the government actually is trying to promote renewable energy and reduce dependence on fossil fuels. That's a positive way of doing it. Secondly, we need to preserve our forests, because forests are what takes off the carbon dioxide from the environment and gives us oxygen to breathe, so that will clean our air. So we need to grow more trees and give our environment breathers to clean the environment, to clean itself. And then also apart from that, in terms of agriculture, we can use climate smart agriculture techniques or practices, where the first thing is to be able to use conservation techniques to conserve the soil. We are also able to use drought-tolerant crops to be able to prevent losses due to drought, and then also minimizing chemicals in our environment. All these work together to deal with climate change.
All right, you've said that especially minimizing on cutting down of trees, especially in our forests, to at least reduce the adverse effects of climate change. So does that mean that is also a contributor?
Yes, that's a contributor. Because of deforestation,
yeah,
we have encroached into the forest, and because of that, there's not enough trees to absorb the carbon dioxide from the environment, and that means accumulating within the atmosphere, and that is what leads to greenhouse gas emissions or global warming that is actually impacting on climate change.
All right. Now, seeing that you're someone who has so much knowledge on matters environmental studies, in your perspective, Daktari, what can the global response to COVID-19 teach us about how we handle climate change as a society?
I think that's a very important issue.
Yeah.
Because when we heard about COVID-19, all of us panicked, and it's like all of us went to our hiding places, and we didn't know how to socialize or do anything. And I think we are yet to know the impact of isolation on our lives. And to me, I think this should not be the trend. We need to live healthy every day, and we need to improve on our health issues. For example, health infrastructure should be there. We need to work on research, because we know about these viruses, and we know that viruses do not have a cure, and therefore, by living healthy, we can deal with them. And when they come, our immunity can be able to resist them. We can also create awareness so that people are aware on how they can cope with the disease, and in case of isolation, how do we manage livelihoods? How do we manage particularly those low-income communities in urban areas? And apart from that, we need to fight poverty, because we have seen how the problem of poverty can make control of a pandemic almost impossible. People must eat, people must live from day-to-day basis. You cannot close industries, and therefore poverty is an issue that needs to be addressed, among other issues. And then also we need to map out our natural resource base. In Africa, we are still endowed with a lot of natural forests. And I believe where these viruses, zoonoses are coming from, there are also solutions to those problems. And therefore, when you, particularly our herbal medicine, if you go and do research on them, how to deal some of the ailments, this can be done. Sometimes I am not very sure whether the solution to viruses is just the vaccines. And if it is so, then why don't we make vaccines ourselves? Because by importing them, we are actually contributing to emissions in the atmosphere. We can have people come and make vaccines here, because vaccines are industry, people are creating jobs, getting money. We can have that money here also, create jobs and also take care of our health. So whichever way we look at it, I think we need to do a lot to deal with the viruses in the future.
Wow, Doctor, you've raised up a couple of lessons that we can learn in how to deal with climate change, even as you're learning how to deal with COVID-19. But I just want us to unpack a bit of those issues that you've raised, and maybe we can start with the health issue. When you say that we need to start learning how to live healthy, break it down for us a bit.
Yes, I still want to draw you back to the Big Four agenda, where health is a very important component. And one of the issues I'm doing this is because I mentioned 4 types of health and social health.
Yes.
The Big Four agenda is actually addressing the social health. And we are yet to see the impacts. For example, housing is an issue. In the informal sector, you find one room with parents and children, and they're living there on a daily basis. During quarantine, you can imagine the life those children are going through. That's an issue of housing. There's also education, that people need to create awareness, and also formal education to be able to know what to do when there's a virus. So there are different aspects of social health that we need to address, even income of the people, so that people can earn a minimum income that they can be to afford health services and be able to live a normal life. But then I also mentioned the moral health,
yes,
which is the biggest problem sometimes we face today. Because physical and mental health, you can go to hospitals and be treated, but social and moral health cannot be treated just in the hospital. Moral health requires belief, maybe in God, to be able to do the right thing at the right time. And every day we see our leaders fighting, we see corruption, we see abuses. It's because of lack of moral health in our society, not the physical health. And all this combined together to bring a wholesome health of the community. And I think for the moral health, I think the biggest problem is that we have never, for example, had a church law in this country for so many years after independence. And that's a vacuum that if we don't address health, even if climate change comes with its impacts, we will still be vulnerable, because even funds brought up to fight viruses will still disappear under corruption because of lack of moral health.
All right. Also, you had mentioned that even as we deal with climate change, that it's important for us to start creating awareness on better coping mechanisms. Which coping mechanisms are this, and how can we create awareness in regards to this issue?
Yes, that's a very important area.
Yeah.
For example, I believe knowledge is power. For example, where I live, sometimes I see people walk along the road, and the mask, they actually put it below their chin. If they see a policeman, they put it up. That's a simple way in which you can tell how people need awareness, because we do not wear masks for policemen. We wear masks to protect each other. When we have a curfew, we don't do it to evade police or anybody else. We do it to deal with the disease. Whether we are monitored or not, we do the right thing. Those simple things people need to be told.
All right, so now from your perspective then, what can we do to reverse these complicated scenarios of climate change, especially when it comes to viruses?
Yes, for climate change, like I said before, it's going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's a long-term average. Even for us to remove what's already in the environment, we take a long time for that to change. And therefore, we just have to live our lives to its fullest. And one way to do that is to expect this virus that can come anytime and have structures in place that we can use to mitigate the issue. For example, when we have our own well-defined research structures to deal with these infectious diseases, we need to have enough funding there for emergency so that we can able to address our own problems without always asking for support from other countries. When we have put our house in order, I believe every challenge is different and we can be able to approach it differently depending on the circumstances.
All right, that's really a good point there, that it's important for us to put our house in order so that we don't keep asking for help from different places and even different countries, right? That's what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
All right. Now, we know that as of now, we don't have any clear explanation of the source of COVID-19 as a disease. Is there a possibility of us facing zoonotic fever in the near future?
Which one? Sorry?
Yeah, I'm saying that right now we don't have any clear explanation on the source of COVID-19, like as of now. So is there a possibility for us as people, as individuals, to face zoonotic fever in the near future?
Oh, so zoonosis.
Zoonotic fever, the one that stems from animals and birds.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was trying to explain when we talked about HIV, talk about Ebola, we talk about SARS, which is H1N1 was there before, and then now COVID. They're sort of zoonotic from the knowledge we have at present because they come from animals to humans, actually direct transmission. So those ones, like I said, so long as we still interact with animals from the wild, we are likely to pick viruses from them. So in future, that is possible. But what we can do now is to be able to map out the risks that we have. What risks do we have? And once we know that, we can do research much more in advance so that we're not caught unawares or waiting to do what the West is doing. We must have structures to research and find solutions to our own problems.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Now, just for the benefit of our viewers, zoonotic fever is the disease that is caused or passed from animals or even insects to human beings. And an example of that could be animal flu or even bird flu. And just what you're trying to find out from our guest there, that is Dr. Alice, is whether or not we might be faced with zoonotic fever in the near future, given the fact that we don't have any clear explanation of the source of COVID-19. Now, Dr. coming back to you, we had talked a bit about clearing up of forests, which also has negative impact on climate change. But when you talk about that clearing up of forests, when you talk about people using such places as settlement areas and even places just for their agricultural capacity, is there a possibility that some viruses are being released from such areas?
Yes. When every time we open up a new place, the way our ecosystem works, there are always occupants of every ecosystem, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So even if it's a forest, there are animals there, there's wildlife there. So that happens. When you clear land for agriculture, then we are able to get in touch with the animals there. And also, we are also removing trees. That alone has caused a problem, for example, with malaria. Because malaria initially was confined to certain altitudes. But because of encroachment of agriculture, of people into higher altitude and deforestation, now there's what we call highland malaria, which is actually affecting for example, in Kenya we have Kisii, where there's highland malaria, and this is more virulent than the normal malaria that we have, because initially the people do not have immunity to resist those ailments, and therefore they are more affected than people who have already been used to these particular problems.
Wow, you've said also opening up of such areas. Then, from your perspective, what can we do as a society then to avoid opening up such spaces, given the fact that there's limited areas for people to settle?
Yes, that is very important. In fact, for a long time,
yes,
we have talked about reorganizing our space, because the earth will not change. It is us to change. We have talked that we can actually have sections for settlement of people, and we can go vertical, let people take their land, make them like cooperatives, and be able to cultivate together and live together, at the same time free land for farming, so that we do not have to clear much forest again, but to control the clearing, plant more trees, but still live healthy with services within these premises. In so doing, we would have actually solved so many problems even for our nation.
Wow, that's really well put there. But now, finally, as we come to a close, Dr. Alice, then what can we do to save ourselves from viral fevers?
From viral fevers,
yeah.
I think we just need to be healthy. One thing is we can eat healthy so that we build our immunity. We can live healthy. We need to have adequate water in our houses, like to wash our hands. We need to have adequate housing, like the government has promised us. We hope that in the near future, every Kenyan will be provided with or be given opportunity to have a decent dwelling with facilities. And then we also need to have our environment clean around us generally. So I hope all these things will be able to have them for each and every citizen of this country. That is my dream.
Okay, living healthy is very important. Now, what about research in vaccine and vaccination? Could that be a solution to viruses as well?
That is very important. That will be, I think 50% should go into that attention, because vaccines normally help us to build antibodies, and having built them in our bodies, then we can be able to fight the virus ourselves within our body. So vaccines are important. I know there are many diseases like measles where children normally get vaccines. We also have others like flu vaccine is there. So, but like I said earlier, if we are to use vaccines, let us have vaccines made in our countries. Then we know how they are made. We know what is involved. Then we can also use them for ourselves. But when vaccines are made elsewhere and brought to us, we do not know what is in those vaccines. We do not know even the impacts. And also, we don't want to be the market for people to just make vaccines and bring to us. We can also be our own markets. We can make them, use them, and build our industries, and create employment, and also keep healthy. To me, that's my approach to vaccines.
Right, that is really so nice, saying that we can also make vaccines for ourselves. We don't have to rely on the outside world to do that. Then, do you feel like we can get a lasting vaccine for COVID-19 in your perspective?
Lasting vaccine?
Yeah.
Do we need a lasting vaccine? For viruses, we don't need a lasting vaccine. You just need, once you build the antibodies, then the body will deal with it and the virus can die.
Okay.
Unfortunately, if some are weak, those ones will be eliminated. But those who will survive, they would have survived, and therefore they will be strong enough to resist that virus.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Alice Odingo, for your time.
Thank you so much, Mas.
All right, we appreciate your input. So I've been speaking to Dr. Alice Odingo, a senior lecturer at University of Nairobi on the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies, just helping us understand more about climate change and the emerging health challenges presented in that sector. Our special focus has been on viruses and specifically COVID-19. So that's that, and that's where we bring to a close Good Morning Kenya this Tuesday morning. Join us again tomorrow for our next edition of Good Morning Kenya. From me and on behalf of the entire team, we say thank you so much for watching. Till tomorrow, good morning.
On the next episode of Elena's Ghost.
I'm a man that's in need of your love, that needs your affection, Andrea.
It'd be terrible if she escaped again, Doctor. She's proven to be a very dangerous woman.
Dangerous and intelligent.
Nothing that has to do with this Calcanio is exaggerated.
Our son finally turns 1 today. And Pancho and I have prepared something truly special for this event.
Hello, Elena.
Karina!
Coronavirus COVID-19 is a respiratory virus spreading across the world. The infection is spread from droplets of coughing and sneezing of an infected person, touching or shaking hands, or being in contact with contaminated surfaces or objects with the virus. The signs and symptoms are fever, coughing, headache, body ache, difficulty in breathing. The disease can be prevented by regularly washing hands with soap and running water. Avoid close contact with people who have flu-like symptoms. Avoid handshake, hugs, and kissing. Also, protect yourself by covering your mouth or nose using a disposable tissue while coughing or sneezing. If you experience these symptoms and you had traveled or been in contact with a person from a country reporting COVID-19, you should isolate yourself for 14 days. Dial *719# or call 719. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners.
Hamjambo wa Kenya wenzangu. Mimi ni Mheshimiwa Mize. Ninalotaka kuambia ni kuwasihi ya kwamba korona iko. Na ili tupigane nayo na tuishinde. Ukikohoa, tafadhali kama una ile ya kujifunika ile tissue, weka mkono hapa. Kama ni chafya yako acho na itabakia pale pale. Kama ni kukohoa yako koholea hapo. Na nakwambia tukizingatia sheria na tuitii, hii korona tutaishinda na nchi yetu tutarudi kama kawaida.
This Tuesday on KBC Channel 1.
Sign on the dotted line, please. Tuongee na familia. Hapana. Sisi wote tutataka kusaidia. Tunampenda sana huyo msichana.
I can take anything you throw at me, Wanjala. Hit me!
Stop it, Julia!
This patient's incredible at survival instincts.
You were right, Elena. There are worse fates for a person in life than dying.
Dasaba is serving. Zora. Sowad. Good retrieval by Brick. Dasaba. Edna. And then Brick again. Good double block from Dasaba and Violet Barasa getting Kenya to match point. It's
They were known as the Kenya Volleyball Queens, who took the continent by storm, led by a galaxy of stars, among them the legendary Dorcas Nakumicha Ndasaba.
My grandfather was a very good footballer. Then he was telling us stories about football. And then he one day told us, I want one of you to take up my footsteps. Then I started playing football like him, but after some times I changed to volleyball because I saw the way people jump, and I had a very good teacher who used to teach me how to jump and take off and all those things. So that's how I came to love volleyball.
Volleyball was all in the genes of Dorcas, who traces the roots back in the village.
I was in primary, and my teacher was Makoha. I was a senior teacher. Then when I went to secondary school, Sirakaru Secondary School, I was under Mr. Paul Simiyu Wanyama. Yeah, he's now a teacher at the Sirakaru Secondary School, Sirakaru Primary School. He's the one who motivated me to play volleyball because he was playing for Kapsakwanyi boys during those days.
She made her name in Bungoma before she spread her wings far and wide.
In school, I was voted the most valuable player in the nationals in Bungoma. So in 1989. Then from there, that's the time now. After finishing 1991, it's when I joined in Zoya Sugar Company, but I didn't stay there for long. I had to transfer to Nairobi to Kenya Railways. Here it was okay, yeah, but the team was not doing so well during that time because it was Kenya Pipeline, KCB, they were matching the winners, and then Kenya Railways was number 3. Then there is a coach called Hiroshi. He's the one who told me to switch from railways to telecom, former KPTC.
Kenya Post and Telecommunications Corporation was calling the shots then in volleyball, and she ensured that they scaled greater heights before she moved to KCB.
He took me from railways to Kenya Post and Telecommunication. Thereafter, he took me to Japan for training, like for 2 years. Then after, when I came back, I had to join now telecom completely. And I have been under telecom for 14 years. And I retired when I was in telecom. In telecom, since KPTC was the best team, the volleyball team, that took all the African Club Championship. Like we took, I went there in 1993, and we took 3 times in a row. And then again, with the next 3 years, again we took, like those are 6 years in a row. Then thereafter we took 2 times, and then the 3rd time was taken by Pipeline. Yeah. So we were the champions in the All African Games and in the Club Championship too. But I went back to play now for KCB, and I didn't play for KCB for long.
Good play from Nakamicha.
The spiker eventually affirmed her place in the national volleyball team, where she became a prominent figure instrumental in their success.
I can't remember very well, but like all African games, I think I have won like 7 times. 7 times in all African games. Like the time when we went to Morocco. Yeah, Morocco, I was voted the most valuable player. And then I went to South Africa. I was voted the most valuable player. And also in South Africa, because the chairman was Mr. Hangati Alfred. Yeah, he made me to be like a queen of the volleyball in Kenya. So because he used to walk around with me, introducing me to so many people there, so I was like a queen.
The Kenya Volleyball Queens did qualify for not only the 2000 Olympics, but the next Games as well.
That's going to Olympics. That's my memorable time, being an Olympian, because that's the brim of everything. And I was happy because to make it to the Olympics, it's wonderful to me. And I was wishing that one day I also be an Olympian. And that's what God made me to reach there.
Dorcas Ndasaba not only enjoyed a successful career in Kenya, but in Japan, Turkey, Dubai, Croatia, and Rwanda.
Okay, in Japan, I was there in Kawajima Harima Volleyball Club by the name IHI. That's a company that deals with the ships. I played there for 3 years with the Rosalita Obunaka, who is now in the US. And the club was okay. Well, when I left there, the club was number 2, following the Hitachisawa Volleyball Club. Yeah, I was based in Hiroshima. Turkey, I was playing for Yalova, and then it was a very good club. First, I went to Besiktas Volleyball Club, but when I reached there, the coach said, "You are too short. You cannot play in my team." And surprising enough, when I went to Yalova, we came and made in finals, and we beat them and they lost, so we were number 1. In Dubai, I was playing for Al Shabab, and there I won them like 5 trophies, and being voted the most valuable player in every tournament that I played. I went to Croatia. I played for the club called Croatia Volleyball Club. I was there for like 6 months or 8 months, and then that team was in the second league. So we made it to the first leg, and in the first league we were number 2. From the first league we were number 5. Then when I went there, we played and won. We were number 1. So after that, we went to first league and played. We were number 5. There was a request from Rwanda. The Rwandese requested me to go and teach them volleyball, a bit of volleyball that I know. And from them knowing that I'm now the best volleyball in Africa, in Kenya, so they requested me to go and train them, to teach their girls how to play volleyball, and to show them that a girl can also strike the ball. I played for APR. I won all the trophies in Kigali. And then we came to Kenya for the club championship, where we were number 5. Then we went back. And then after forming the APR team, it was strong. Then I had to switch to Rwanda Revenue Authority. And also I won them so many trophies. And then I took the Rwanda Revenue volleyball team 2017, 2018 to club championship in Egypt, where I was number 5 again. It was okay, because when we went there, we changed volleyball in Rwanda. Yeah, we changed at least everything. And that's now why you can see now Rwanda has the best teams now. Yeah, because of our transition.
She gained a lot of experience from that exposure to become one of the best players in the continent and a darling of the Kenyan fans, what with her powerful spikes.
They used to call me like a destroyer. That was the name I was given because I was the best striker. My attacks were very powerful. And also I had a very good reception. Services were also good, and that's why I maintained the most valuable player for a very long time in my club, in Kenya, and in all African volleyball club championships. Like I was following Toson Tutu because she was the most valuable player, but I was the best striker.
The former captain of the Kenya Volleyball Queens was however forced to leave her duties while at the peak of her career when they were deemed too old to carry on effectively.
You know, to me it was a surprise. Because since I left volleyball after World Cup in Japan in 2008, where I was voted the player of the game, after the Kenyans here, after playing in Kasarani 2 weeks earlier, I was voted the most valuable player. And then they said that Ndasaba is too old and then she has to leave the team for young players. Then when I went to Japan, I was voted the player of the game. I was given a trophy. So when coming back, I had to say that I'm resigning, you see. So it took me like what is all this? What's happening to me? And why are they doing this to me? Then I said, no, I have to resign from volleyball. Because even like a player like Wanja, like Praxidi Zakala, they were there. And then they said, okay, if you are doing this to Ndasaba, then what will happen to us? Because the same thing is going to happen to another player. But what I may say to the federations, all federations I mean, if a player is good, keep that player in the court. Give him or her a chance. You see, let other players just come in and learn from her. You see, she can just be there, or he can be there. But other players, when they come in, they learn from her or him, not the way they did to me, because it was so embarrassing. But I thank God because I withstood the shock.
She took it all in stride and moved on and found her way back to beach volleyball with much success.
Volleyball is in my blood, and you can see even when during my volleyball career, I went as far as playing beach volleyball, and that's where I brought Kenya a silver medal in South Africa, and I went in Russia in World Cup for a world tour in Russia. So that's why I love volleyball so much. Just holding that ball in my hands. I sleep volleyball, I eat volleyball, yeah. I drink volleyball.
She also had a stint as a coach.
When I was still playing, I had a love in being a referee. But after some times, they told us that maybe the age will be a limit to you. So I had to change to be a coach. But it didn't take me a long time because volleyball is what I have in my head. It's not that I'm going to learn more volleyball outside there so that I can coach. No, I just use what I was being taught to coach, to show other players also to come up and to be like me. That's how I managed to be a coach.
Looking back now, she has no regrets whatsoever, having picked invaluable lessons along the way, which she hopes will also impact on the others ahead of upcoming events.
I don't regret being a volleyballer or the way I chose to be a volleyball. No, I can't regret anything because in volleyball, I've enjoyed everything. This volleyball, from volleyball now I'm playing in Japan, like for the 8 years I played in Japan, I came from Japan, I bought myself land, my mom land, I built a house for my mother, so I can't regret. When we were playing, we used not go for training outside the countries, and we just played in Kasarani, in a stadium, training outdoors. But now maybe it's just like to urge whoever is the coaches or the government maybe to chip in and help the girls to go for training outside, like maybe they take them to Japan, they take them to Turkey, to wherever they can take them for training. At least just to have that indoor training completely, not going outside training in sun, in rain seasons, you see. And also to motivate them, maybe like, okay, let them be motivated with so financially they should be motivated. The upcoming players or anybody who wants to be a player, you should have that passion. You should have the passion to love what you want to do. If only you have that discipline, you manage yourself. Let nobody to manage you. And let nobody to control you on what to do. But just manage yourself. Know where if you're going wrong, know that this is the wrong thing and do the right thing at the right time. It should be a self-drive. You need not to wait for a coach to come and tell you that you are supposed to do for training, you're supposed to go for morning radio, you're supposed to do what, but it's you as an individual to decide that I want to be at the top. And then, how am I going to be at the top? With the high quality of discipline. You have to be disciplined. The way you talk, the way you dress, the way you walk around with people, the way you conduct with yourselves with balls in the court. And you should love volleyball. Girls should not undermine themselves. They should be determined. They should be focused. And not maybe, with us girls, maybe people say that, oh, maybe I want to get married, I want to have maybe what. No, if you want something, aim at it and you'll get it. But like for me, I just said, I want to play volleyball. I want to be at the top. I want to be seen. I wanted to play like Maria Louise. And in fact, I played with Maria Louise on the same net. After finishing, I said I have to play like you. And said, imagine you are playing like me. And I was so happy because she was the topmost player in the world.
The first inductee is Dorcas Ndasaba.
Dorcas Ndasaba. Haya, safi kabisa, ndio huyo Dorcas Ndasaba.
Everything happens for a reason, lest you forget, and Dorcas' contribution and achievements in the volleyball scene, home and away, have not gone unnoticed to be inducted in the Sawyer Sports Personalities Hall of Fame.
Oh my God, this is wonderful. I was so happy. And I thank the management for Sawyer for giving me that award. Because it's called God's Joseph. It was not like God had a favor on me in 2020. And I say that.
Dorcas Ndasaba, one of the best volleyball players the country has ever had, is still taking everything in stride and has not let that recognition nor success get into her head to settle for the village life where she grows a sugarcane among other ventures while mentoring others.
Now I'm a farmer, and sometimes when I'm free, there's some secondary schools in Bungoma district. I normally go there to coach them. I have like a Naitiri friends school, Naitiri. We have Siumbwa secondary school. I coach them, Naitiri boys. I go to Namwela boys. I go to Kakamega. Then I coach Mugumu girls. So the schools I do coach. To my fans, I may say that Ndasaba Dorcas number 9 for the captain for the national team, former captain of the national team, is back, and keep watching volleyball because we are there together. God bless you.
Now I'm confident about this, that they have locked up Acharya Chanakya here.
You and your friends are done fooling me. Not anymore. I will take you to Her Highness immediately.
Greetings, Emperor.
I see a grave danger approaching us. Along with Acharya Chanakya, there is a conspiracy to murder the entire royal family.
I have found Acharya.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m. on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Top on Channel 1.
Elgom Thabiti Fertilizers, the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries, Cooperatives and partners of the National Farmers Awards congratulate our 2019 winners. All the winners, we celebrate your valued efforts in feeding the nation and wealth creation. You are our soil heroes.
Miss, I've been asking about Flight 648 from Paris, but no one is saying anything. Is something wrong?
A tragedy changed everything.
It's the plane. They're not coming.
What are you talking about? What do you mean they're not coming?
I won't leave you. Why did they have to die, Juana? Tell me why.
A last will is going to transform their lives.
It's Juana Lopez Ortiz.
Me? You have to get that woman out of here. Only heaven knows what kind of trick she used to get your father to leave her the insurance.
And the person she least expected will come to her door.
Ah!
Hey!
Ouch!
Be careful. Slowly, slowly.
Oh, no,
slowly.
In love with Ramon.
On the next episode of Elena's Ghost.
I'm a man that's in need of your love, that needs your affection, Andrea.
It'd be terrible if she escaped again, Doctor. She's proven to be a very dangerous woman.
Dangerous and intelligent.
Nothing that has to do with this Calcanio is exaggerated.
Our son finally turns 1 today. And Pancho and I have prepared something truly special for this event.
Hello, Elena.
Karina!
I'm Cyrus.
My God, that's them.
Wow!
Ooh, a porch swing. I know what I'm doing this weekend.
I can't let go! Oh, grody.
This Tuesday on KBC Channel 1.
Sign on the dotted line, please. Tuongee na familia. Hapana. Sisi wote tutataka kusaidia. Tunampenda sana huyo msichana.
I can take anything you throw at me, Wanjala. Hit me!
Stop it, Julia!
This patient's incredible at survival instincts.
You were right, Elena. There are worse fates for a person in life than dying.
On the next episode of Kona.
Kuna majamaa poa huko nje na mmoja ni wako.
Please, and I am not interested.
Kama Wanjala kuna information yoyote atakaye share nayo, he'll keep us posted.
Na time ya mambo ndogo. Enda uka warm up na ubebe chuma. Wanjala akiniuliza nitamwambia everything.
The food is yet to be delivered. That's the only responsibility she has at the moment.
Can you keep a secret?
Mimi niko hapa kusupport 100%.
Show me what you've got. Hit me back.
So, what is it going to be? Am I going to have you or not?
Good morning, class.
Good morning, Mr. Kipto.
Now I want to try the composition using the word jogging.
Teacher, please give us spelling for the word jogging.
Sijasema jog ile jog ya kunyongwa. Hapana. Ninasema jogging. Na sijasema jog ile nye unasema jog ya kukimbia ya marathon.
Kupata jogging. Bonyeza *811 *963#.
Jogging your brain ile kukimbiza akili.
The Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2020 will be read for the first time. The Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendment Bill is in keeping with the practice of making various amendments which do not merit the publication of separate bills and consolidating them into one bill. There are various acts which are proposed, or the amendments which have been proposed to various acts. Among them, the Interpretation and General Provisions Act, the Records Disposal Act, that's Cap 14, the Penal Code, Cap 63, the Criminal Procedure Code, Cap 75, the Evidence Act, Cap 80, where the bill proposes to amend the Act to expand the definition of a term there, photograph, and allow for the presentation and admissibility of digital photographs. Also in the order of business this morning is the Social Assistance Repeal Bill, National Assembly Bill number 16 of 2020. The principal object of this bill is to repeal the Social Assistance Act number 24 of 2013 in order to enable the enactment and operationalization of the Public Finance Management Social Assistance Fund regulations made under the Public Finance Management Act number 18 of 2012. Also in the order of business this morning is the consideration of the finance bill in the Committee of the Whole House, followed by a motion on the approval of the mediated version of the County Government Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 11 of 2017. There will also be a motion by the Vice Chairperson Mediation Committee on the approval of the mediated version of the County Government Amendment number 2 Bill. It is a Senate Bill number 7 of 2017. The other bills lined up for debate include the Refugees Bill, the Care and Protection of Older Members of the Society Bill, that's a Senate bill, as well as the Preservation of Human Dignity and Enforcement of Economic and Social Rights Bill, another Senate bill. The County Law Compliance and Enforcement Bill from the Senate is also in the order of business this morning. There will be a special motion by the Vice Chair, Parliamentary Service Commission, on the appointment of a member to the Parliamentary Service Commission, that taking into consideration the recommendations of the Parliamentary Service Commission in its report on the recruitment of the Parliamentary Service Commissioner, who is not a member of Parliament, laid on the table of the House on Tuesday, June 16, 2020, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 127, subsection 2D of the Constitution, and paragraph 4 of the first schedule to the Parliamentary Service Act of 2019, this House appoints the Honorable Rachel Ameso Amolo as a member of the Parliamentary Service Commission. There are various questions which will be asked by members this morning. Among them, some questions by the member for Trans Nzoia County, Honorable Janet Nangabo Wanyama, and she will be asking the Cabinet Secretary for Health on the measures the ministry has put in place to ensure that families residing in informal settlements and rural areas adversely affected during the COVID-19 pandemic period due to either inaccessibility or long distance to healthcare facilities access healthcare. The question will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Health. The member for Nakuru Town East, Honorable David Gikaria, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development and Public Works, why is the construction of the Southern Bypass Road that is expected to pass near Lake Nakuru National Park in Nakuru County is yet to commence? Could the Cabinet Secretary provide contract details of the project, including the names of the contractor, the tender amount, and the total amount of money budgeted for the project, and when is the project expected to commence. This question by the Honourable Member for Nakuru Town East will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport. The member for Gatundu North, Honourable Annie Wanjiku Kibe, will ask the Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure, Housing, Urban Development and Public Works on the status of the construction of Gatukuyu Kairi Matara Road in Gatundu North constituency, among other questions. And these questions will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Transport. If you're just joining us, the business of the National Assembly this morning is about to begin. This broadcast is brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Chiboy, has stepped into the chambers. My name is Edward Kabasa. Let me now hand you over for this live broadcast courtesy of PBU in conjunction with KBC. The broadcast is available on Bunge TV as well as KBC Channel 1. Good morning.
Honorable members, let's pray. Almighty God, who in your wisdom and goodness have appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessing descend upon us here assembled. Grant that we treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Honorable members, you know it is not very easy now to confirm the quorum because we also have to know what is the number of members who are in other holding areas. So we'll allow a few more members to come in and then we can make the final confirmation. But then